territory.
Yeah.
With a straight face, too. Yo, what's going on, friends? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive, presented by Prize Picks. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D with you for the next hour, breaking down a difficult 5-game slate. Might be relying on the tools quite a bit for this one, but we'll get first word from Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's going on, man? This one, Josh and I talked about it this morning. Pretty brutal from a value, very brutal from a value perspective.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. Like I was doing, I started putting out basically just like a slate overview in written form today. And since I didn't do the strategy show, that was my first look at it. And I'm going through these games and I'm just like, yeah, everything looks like completely mediocre. I don't really know what I'm supposed to talk about in this. Like there's just and like Jimmy Butler was at least questionable at that time. Now he's available. LeBron and Davis are both in. They were questionable at that time. So like right now it seems pretty tough. Like you're going to get a lot of ownership going to some very uncomfortable plays that are just, the best that you can get to at a cheap price point, because you do have plenty of good options to get to as well. So it certainly looks interesting. I prefer slates like this where, you can kind of get creative and you're not just forced into very, very popular plays that also just look wildly better than all of the alternatives.
Well, let's get into it then already. So I made some enemies this morning in the NBA strategy show. Let me tell you, definitely made some enemies. I think you would have been on Josh's side for this one for sure, but that's okay. It's subjective. We all have different tastes in music. But and then you saw the video, Ben. We'll get into this in just a second. By the way, happy to have you guys with us. Already got 600 people here, 80 thumbs up. Appreciate you big time. Means a lot. If you haven't done so and you want to atone for your sins, make yourself a new man, cleanse yourself of that filth. All you got to do is hit the thumbs up. Takes a single second. That's all. Takes a single second to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And we'll get there. We'll get to 500, no problem by the end of this show because I trust you guys. Peter atoned. See, we're in business. All right. So Ben asked if you could take over territory if you had control of all of the world's ants, 20 quadrillion ants. And then went as far as to ask, could you occupy the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the event that you had all of the world's ants?
Can you strap nukes on them?
But how? The tiny nukes?
I mean, their whole thing is that they all work together and carry stuff.
They are industrious.
Can't you just throw some bombs on them and walk them into Ehrenberg?
I mean, I guess that could be the way you would do it. That you'd have to get tiny.
It defeats your magnifying glass idea because you don't want to just catch the ants on fire because that's bad if they're strapped with bombs.
Come on, man. Like growing up as a kid and stuff, the magnifying idea is pretty great.
Yeah, but not if they're going to explode.
True. I still think it's impossible. I still don't think you could do it. You'd have to get that. I don't know. Your idea is better than anything Ben came up with. I'll give you that much.
Yeah. Well, and I probably didn't think about it nearly as much as Ben either, because he's probably been sitting on that one for like a week.
Here he goes. I'm not saying they can. I'm not saying I think they would. But I've been thinking about it a lot. All right, let's talk.
Yeah, and Josh is right too. He said you have to just train them to crawl inside of humans. Like you can just start, if you can start using ant assassins that nobody's even going to notice.
Well, that's what I said. I said they would have to be assassins, like the Black Mirror episode where the bee. Remember that episode?
I didn't watch it, but
all right. But it would have to be straight assassin style for sure.
Yeah,
otherwise,
but if you get them to be efficient assassins, you could take over Pennsylvania just by assassinating everybody.
Just by sheer attrition and just get them to take them out slowly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I still think it's an uphill battle, but let's talk some basketball. 5 games. We have 1 game on this slate with a 211 total. Pretty remarkable stuff for 2023. Jimmy Butler was questionable earlier in the day. He's going to play. Gabe Vincent's expected to play for this one. I suppose we can dive right into it. Yeah, Josh, I was thinking the same thing. We didn't want to make that horrible pun, so I left it to you. Miami, 4.5 point dogs, 211 total. And again, gonna be looking at a lot of tools today. For those of you that are already subs, hop on in, follow along. If you're not, I'll tell you 2 different ways later in the show to get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value for every single sport that we have to offer just by using $10 in 2 minutes of your time. So stay tuned for that. If you're looking to get your foot in the door, take advantage of all these tools and win some money. But let's start it off with Miami. And I do want to update. Did we get a recent update in ownership? Do you know? Let me see. No. Okay,
looks like an hour ago.
An hour ago. All right. So still waiting. But Josh and I were talking about it this morning, looking at someone like Kyle Lowry. It says a lot when he's 18% owned. The guy has a 17% usage rate, a low 20s in assist rate, not a good fantasy point per minute producer. Right now, Tyler Hero getting the most ownership on this slate. But once again, it is against, one of the best, if not the best defensive teams in the league, the slowest paced team in the league in the Cleveland Cavaliers. How do we go about looking at these mid-range options and even value options for Miami in such a strange spot?
Yeah, I mean, when you see this kind of ownership coming in to Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin, and it's not just the ownership too. Like you have Lowry at 18%, you have Martin at 15%, but it's backed up in terms of optimal percentage too, where Kyle Lowry has an 18% chance of being optimal. Martin is at 15%, and Lowry's projected for 23 DraftKings points, Martin for about 18. So it just speaks to that's kind of, where your options are right now, because there are plenty of guys that you want to pay for on this slate. There's plenty of good options. So it's just, you kind of take the best of what you can get. Kyle Lowry's likely to give you around 30 minutes. Caleb Martin should give you like 26 to 28. Neither one is an exciting play. And if guys get ruled out between now and lock, you're going to see ownership on them come down quite a bit, but you're just going to see a lot of ownership coming into like anybody that is reasonable at, in that like 4 to 5K range. And that's the case here for Lowry and Martin. Bam, Butler, Hero all look fine. It is a tough matchup, like you said. Should be a slow-paced game. Very, very good defensive team in Cleveland as well. But the price tags here aren't really expensive. $8,300 for Bam, $7,800 for Butler, $6,700 for Hero. All just look like decent options. Again, if you get a situation where somebody gets ruled out elsewhere, you're going to see ownership on this entire team come down since they are fully healthy. But with the way things look right now, it just looks like a team where basically all 5 of the starters are going to pull ownership, and they probably should, and nobody else is going to get any because they're not likely to play enough minutes. The only guy that isn't a starter here that I think you could make some sort of a case for would be Victor Oladipo at 5K, probably giving you around 28 to 30 minutes, but at the same time, not going to be asked to do a ton because you have Jimmy Butler playing, you have Hero, you have Bam, and all of those guys are playing big minutes. So I don't think that Oladipo's a very good option, but he is at least playable at low ownership.
And not just low ownership. You're talking like 1% ownership on this guy.
Yep.
And, let me ask you a game theory question. I think this could be helpful for everybody on a slate like this, because this is like you and I, look, we've talked about plenty of bad slates over the years, but this is unique just in that it's only 5 games. One of the games super projected to have super low scoring. And then a couple others, there's just aren't a lot of great spots. Are you more willing to take heavier stances on lower owned tournament options on a slate like this, where so much of the ownership gets gets funneled towards value plays at the top that sure might be the best value play on paper, might project a little bit higher than these other guys, but are absolutely no sure thing to get the job done? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think the answer is typically going to be yes. There's the thing is, like, even if ownership is coming into questionable plays, it's probably because like there's those questionable plays and then there's not much else around them, but you're going to typically be more willing to go to lower owned guys at like a higher rate, just because the popular plays don't look as good. Like just thinking about it in terms of like, let's say you have a slate where, I don't know, like take Mark Williams, for example, just because he's projected for a lot of ownership right now. If Mason Plumlee were out and you knew Mark Williams is starting at this same price, there's just nobody in that price range that is even remotely comparable. He's going to be super popular, and you're just going to be like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to play a lot of him too, because I don't know where else to go. Here with him being the backup center, yeah, he's still a good value, assuming he gets those backup center minutes, but there's more risk than if you were starting, because like, what if Nick Richards plays? Or, even in 16 minutes, you're going to be able to find other cheap plays that can conceivably beat 16 minutes of Mark Williams. Whereas if he's starting, those plays just don't exist. So typically I'm going to be more willing to just take low owned risks on a slate like this because the popular plays aren't quite as good as they are when, you're talking about teams sitting 2-3 people, but it still just really depends on what the alternatives are.
And we'll get to Mark Williams, but I mean, let me phrase it this way too. What do you think? Let's say this was a 10-game slate. Okay. I can't provide any further context because I'm not going to name all the teams that would be on, but 10-game slate, right? What do you think Mark Williams' ownership would be if you added 5 games to this slate?
Right. It would be a lot lower. Now, granted, if you added 5 games and all 10 of those teams were completely healthy and correctly priced, like the 10 teams playing today, then you would still get a lot of ownership going into Williams. But it would come down just because you have more alternatives, which that was kind of going to what I said at the beginning, where yes, on a slate like this, I'm more willing to take risks, but you also have to keep in mind that it's all relative. Like the field is good enough where they're typically not going to make huge mistakes. And so if you see a bunch of ownership coming into Mark Williams or Kyle Lowry or Caleb Martin, the reason isn't, it's not that we're projecting the field to just, turn into idiots and make really bad plays. It's that there's not much to get to, and those guys look the best out of all the options.
For sure. All right. Good explanation. Let's talk about Cleveland on the other side. All right, man. I guess we got to start at the top of ownership, bottom of the player pool. So again, we're going to be seeing a lot of these like 13, 14, 16% owned players. Ricky Rubio getting 16.7% right now. I mean, I guess, let me say, if he plays close to 20 minutes, he should have some ball handling responsibilities, obviously. Can give you a decent amount in the way of peripherals as a playmaker. You're hoping for probably like 7, 3, and 5 in a game like this, Adam, maybe a couple steals or something, but he's almost minimum salary against this Heat team.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, really cheap, which is good. I am not completely sold on the minutes. He played 19 last game, but he closed the first half, the final 3 minutes and 46 seconds over Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, you're not expecting Ricky Rubio to be taking minutes away from Donovan Mitchell all that often. If you just take those minutes away, you were looking at, like a 16-minute game from Ricky Rubio as opposed to the 19 that he played. It's really difficult to see a way where he gets to a lot of minutes unless they start playing him, Garland, and Mitchell together, which I don't expect, right. Or you get shorter rotations from Garland and Mitchell. In the first half last game, you only got like 14, 15 minutes from Garland. If they keep doing that, that would be good for Rubio, but I also doubt that they do that consistently. But also, he's 3,200. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy overall this year. One thing that was noteworthy in that rotation too is that they didn't stagger Garland and Mitchell. So for a lot of the minutes that Rubio was out there, he was actually out there without either of them, which is obviously going to be good. If you put him out there with Garland or with Mitchell, it's going to cut into his production as you would expect. But at least the rotation they played last game, you did get a lot of minutes where Rubio was going to have the ball in his hands a lot. So that's good. Basically, it's just another situation where, at 3,200, getting 16, 17% ownership, I'd love to get away from it, but also he has a 15% chance of being optimal despite projecting for just shy of 16 DraftKings points. So it kind of just speaks to how useful the price point is right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a necessary evil in a spot like this. And at least he's a guard that has some ball handling responsibility and not a wing that's going to play 20 minutes and not touch the ball and just run wind sprints. But
right. Yeah, I mean, he's a fantasy point per minute guy overall this year. We know last year he was very productive as well. If you look at the 5 games he's played with Mitchell and Garland, he's only produced about 0.7 DraftKings points per minute, which is obviously concerning. But you have to keep in mind that he's also, coming back from a prolonged layoff. So you're probably going to see production increase. And like I said, at least in the most recent game, they weren't staggering Garland and Mitchell. So the fact that they're both playing isn't as important as it would be if we start to see them stagger again. And, Rubio's always out there with one of them.
You were talking about the 5 starters for Miami's and like all of them have at least some utility. Do you feel the same way for the Cleveland Cavs today, looking at these guys?
A little bit less than Miami, but yeah, still similar just because it's a 5-game slate. But the thing with Cleveland is that you have Donovan Mitchell back. He played last game as well, but salaries haven't really adjusted for that. You still have Darius Garland at 8,400, Evan Mobley still at 7,200. Those are both pretty difficult prices to get to with Donovan Mitchell in. The one guy here that I think stands out is Jared Allen. He's still only 6,400. He's not really impacted too much by Donovan Mitchell coming back. It's not like Jared Allen's a high usage guy in general. You're just counting on him to play around 34 minutes, get a bunch of rebounds, get some putbacks. So pulling 12% ownership, I think that makes some sense. You also have a $3,400 Isaac Okoro as a reasonable value. I do think it's kind of interesting that he's getting less ownership than Rubio because he's $200 more expensive, but he has shooting guard and small forward eligibility instead of just point guard. He projects about the same and he's getting less ownership. So, I mean, I never enjoy playing or want to play Isaac Okoro, but I think he's a very similar play to Rubio, all things considered, and he's getting less ownership.
Okay. And yeah, Lewis, I know, man, we talked about it on the show. I was telling Ben about these tribal bullet ant ceremonies where men become boys by throwing gloves on their hands with bullet ants in them and getting bit to pieces. I'm aware, but they ain't taking Pennsylvania, pal. All right. Anything else on Cleveland or Miami? You want to move this on to the Lakers?
Somebody in chat asked about Chetty. I don't know that Chetty's even in the rotation here. They have Dean Wade back. Kevin Love is probable. Love had missed the last game, so that's why you saw Chetty play some. But even most of his minutes there were in garbage time. He played 6.5, 7 minutes in the first half. But again, you have Kevin Love back, so I'm not convinced Chetty's even in the rotation.
Okay. Talk about the Lakers and the New York Knicks here. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Lakers, 1.5-point dogs. LeBron's going to play. Anthony Davis is probable for this one. And then DraftKings, despite the fact that it was clearly looking like a rest day yesterday on the first leg of a back-to-back for LeBron and Davis, priced Westbrook through the roof, priced up Schroeder 6,200. I mean, this is kind of one of those teams where it's not just about being healthy, but it's about half of the team being priced as if the other half, well, not even half, the more important side, the top dogs, everyone else is priced like those guys aren't healthy. And it kind of becomes troublesome to find stuff that you like here on the Lakers side.
Yeah, it's really difficult because you also have LeBron priced for Anthony Davis to be out, at least to some extent. He's playing really, really well. He's playing huge minutes, but he's $11,600 on DraftKings. I do want to see the starting lineup for the Lakers here. Anthony Davis came off the bench last game, still ended up playing 34 minutes, including overtime. So he played around 29 in regulation, but physically also played 34. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him move back into the starting lineup here. And if he does, I think expecting 32 to 34 minutes from him is reasonable, which would make him look okay at 10-4. Other than that, I think maybe looking to like Lonnie Walker, if he's starting, we have Patrick Beverly out. So somebody's going to move into the starting lineup. If it's Lonnie Walker moving back into the starting lineup at 4,200, I'd expect 26 to 28 minutes from him, which would make him look not good, but in the context of this slate, look okay. Troy Brown Jr. at 3,400, 0.12% ownership. He's averaged 0.72 DraftKings points per minute in 26.6 minutes per game in the 10 games he has started with LeBron and Anthony Davis this season. So somebody else where he doesn't look very good, but he projects for 16 DraftKings points at 3,400. And right now on this slate, that makes you interesting.
What about Westbrook on FanDuel where he's 6,700?
I think that's a reasonable price. Obviously playing off the bench, you've seen more fantasy production from him this year. FanDuel scoring isn't as favorable for Westbrook since you lose a full point for turnovers and you don't get the double-double or triple-double bonuses. But I think that's at least a playable price tag, whereas I have no idea how you pay 8,700 for him on DraftKings.
Helms said, lineup generator spitting out some decent lineups right now. Hell yeah, man. We just had a guy take down 50K using the lineup generator. What was it? Late last week, Jordan? It's in the Hall of Fame segment. Yeah, he said it built this lineup was from the lineup generator, took home 50K. That makes me happy. Plus it's 50% off. It just went solo. It makes more sense because for those of you guys obviously looking for, certain people have busy lives, right? And they got things to do and commitment, family, right? Demanding job, whatever the case may be. And they don't have time. Well, lineup generator spits the lineups out for you, but you also have some control over that too. Like you can manipulate them. You can swap guys in and out. You can make adjustments. You can set it for on a bunch of different settings to make it to produce the lineups you're looking for. But it's, what is it? $4, I think, for the first week, and then $8.95 after that. So half off the $8.95, 50% off for the first week. Jordan, throw that in chat, by the way, if you haven't done. There it is. Yeah. 50% off the lineup generator. was very happy because it's brand new. So when you see someone coming in with a 50K win off of that, makes you feel good. Yeah. And Des said he really enjoys hand building. It's fun and love the research. Dude, yeah. But you listen, again, like I said, some people don't have time for that. Some people, like we have the lineup builder over at Stokastic. We have the lineup builder as well, and everything else that you could use for that, all of our other tools. But the lineup generator is a solid combination of both. And you can certainly make all those decisions on your own. Plus, if you don't like lineups, just discard them. Keep the ones you like. And Josh had been asked we were asked this question this morning. It's also optimized for your phone too. So like while some of our tools are definitely better for desktop, this is optimized for your phone. And it looks great on desktop and on your phone. So yeah, half off the first week. Check it out, man. You don't like it, you're down $4. If you do like it, you win some money. Stick around. But yeah, it's awesome, especially for people that might be a little crunched on time. All right, talk to me about this Knicks side of the ball. When you're looking at just like the best teams to target on this slate, I don't really think there's any question right now that it's the New York Knicks, from Brunson to Grimes to Julius Randle in a solid spot. You make good arguments for Barrett, even quickly at 5,200. Quickly on FanDuel, sorry, but I mean, look at the ownership coming across the board on these boys and the optimal lineup scores against this Lakers team.
Yeah, finally a team that we can actually like some plays from. And they were, when I wrote the article today and it was my first look at the slate, this was finally, I got to this team and it was like, all right, well, just kind of like 3 tiers of plays just from this team where Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson both look really good. Then you get Barrett and Grimes as also good options. And then quickly Hartenstein, Sims, all certainly playable as well. I think the only guy here that I would have difficulty getting to is Obi Toppin, since we can't expect him to play minutes alongside Julius Randle. They continue to basically give 48 minutes combined to Hartenstein and Sims, which means you only have 48 minutes for Toppin and Randle as well. Assuming Randle's going to take 37 to 38 of those minutes, you kind of just have to assume Toppin's only playing around 10. So, he's 3K. And if you really want to gamble in large field tournaments and hope that Randle gets in foul trouble, sure. But other than that, I can't really make a case for Toppin. Every other player in the rotation, pretty much, I think you can. Julius Randle should play around 38 minutes in a very good matchup. He's pulling 26% ownership with a 23% chance of being optimal. Brunson should give you 36 to 38 minutes at 7,900, 31% ownership, 25% chance of being optimal. So again, they're both going a little bit over-owned, but they're also both likely to be in the optimal lineup between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 times. Quentin Grimes as a value option, not the most exciting player to roster, but he's shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's likely to give you 32 to 34 minutes. He played 38 last game. I don't think that you're regularly expecting that, but even at 32 to 34 minutes, it's going to make him just a useful value piece. That you're getting big minutes pretty much every night from RJ Barrett. He only played 31 last game, but typically you're getting 35, 36 at least. And then, quickly off the bench, probably playing around 28 minutes at 5,100 in a very good matchup. I don't mind getting there at 12.5% owned. You have 48 minutes going to Sims and Hartenstein. Hartenstein, 3,600, center only, pulling 9% ownership. Sims, 4,600 with power forward eligibility. On average, you're going to get 27 or 28 minutes from Sims. You're going to get 19 or 20 somewhere in there from Hartenstein. But, again, he is cheaper. So I wouldn't play those guys together, but they're both reasonable value options.
How many are you willing to play together from New York tonight?
I probably won't cap it. I would assume I'm not getting more than 3 in most lineups, but if it happens here and there, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah. Just looking at the pricing here with Jalen Brunson, you're talking about a guy, DraftKings, $7,900, surrounded by Butler and then Ingram, whose minutes still seem to be in flux. Jamal Murray, he's been playing really well, questionable. You would assume he plays. Terry Rozier, Zach LaVine, like all these guys within a few $100s. CJ McCollum being another one. And no positions here, just in terms of like the actual price point. Is Brunson far and away the best option there? Or do you think there are some good pivots in tournaments at a similar price point that are getting a lot less owned? And feel free to jump ahead of the slate if you want.
Yeah, I'll say I think there's certainly going to be pivots. I didn't know off the top of my head where ownership's coming in right now, but whenever you're talking about, like an 8K point guard, you're going to have guys you can pivot to. So right now we have Brunson projected for 30% ownership. We have Murray at 24. So, that's a pivot, but he's also getting ownership as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned LaVine. He's pulling 13%. That's certainly an interesting play. Tyler Hero pulling 20%. So I think there's a lot of good plays in that range, but for the most part, they seem to be getting ownership. Also back to your question about how many Knicks in a lineup. I do think this is a team where I would pay attention to some individual rules. I mentioned not wanting Hartenstein and Sims together, but I also think doing like a max 2 of RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, and Emmanuel Quickley makes sense because it's very likely that only 2 of them are going to be in the starting lineup. Or in the closing lineup rather. You assume that Randall and Brunson are going to be in. One of Sims or Hartenstein is going to be in. That only leaves 2 spots for those other 3 guys. So I do like that as a rule as well.
Okay. You want to move on here? Oh, I did want to ask you one last thing on this game. Outside of Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, is Grimes your favorite play from the New York Knicks, or is it somebody else?
I mean, the word favorite feels really disgusting there, but yeah, it's probably Grimes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Your preferred, if you were to prioritize.
The play that I'm going to be forced into against my will. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep it moving here. Clippers, Bulls, 226 total. Clippers laying 3 points. There really aren't a lot of question. Like Patrick Beverley's out for the Lakers. Okay. With the Clippers and outside of that, outside of the Jamal Murray news, and that's an island game at 10 o'clock. So there's a good chance that we have no idea by the time that all of the other 4 games have actually tipped off. So I'm not really sure how much that's even worth discussing. Maybe the Live Before Lock crew gets some news or at least some word on whether or not he's going to play. But right now you would think it seems less likely that happens. But with the Clippers, Marcus Morris, questionable to play in this game. And then, of course, far less important ones, but I'm going to throw them out there anyway. Robert Covington, Reggie Jackson. How could this influence the slate if Marcus Morris or more of these guys are ruled out today?
Yeah, I mean, you could get some questionable value opening up, but questionable value on this slate would actually be pretty useful. So if Marcus Morris is out, you could certainly get Nicholas Batum in the starting lineup. He's 3,900 and would be worth considering. If Reggie Jackson is in, he's only 3,400. Obviously he's not very good, but if you're going to get around 20 minutes from him, which I think is possible, he would look like a decent value as well. He's pulling 5% ownership, whereas Ricky Rubio, who projects like 1 point better, is pulling 15 or 16. So I think that would be a spot to pay attention to. Luke Kennard at 3,300. Again, you're just kind of right now, you're just forced into this situation where you're either playing a popular like Ricky Rubio or you're taking shots on other just bad, really cheap guys but I don't mind it to like just try and be different, hope to get lucky. So that's kind of where those Clippers come into play. Like whoever's active or not active, like if Morris is out, Batum's going to look better, but like rolling the dice on a $3,300 Kennard or a $3,400 Jackson, if he's in, those are reasonable options in large field tournaments. In smaller field stuff, you probably don't need to go there, but it just creates a situation where even though you don't want to play any of those guys, they are getting, 1/3 the ownership of some of the other more popular plays when they're not that big of an underdog to them.
Like, would you prefer Reggie Jackson over Rubio if he really does come in at 1/3 the ownership? Because that's what we're projecting right now.
Yeah, if the ownership holds where Rubio's getting 3 times the ownership, I think it's a pretty easy spot where you can just be like half the field on Rubio, 2x on Jackson, and have basically the same amount of both.
Okay. How do we want to approach Paul George today?
I think he looks very good. He's the only guy from the Clippers that I think really stands out as a priority because he's still just $8,900 on DraftKings, but he also has shooting guard, small forward eligibility. So, and it's, a pretty good matchup here against Chicago as well. 115 implied total for the Clips. He just should be a little bit more expensive than he is. We've seen his playing time ramp back up recently. So you're expecting 35 minutes, give or take, in competitive games. He's just going to look really good. Kawhi's getting some ownership as well. He is $900 more expensive and not that different in terms of per minute production. So I think George is clearly the easier one to get to, but Kawhi's fine as well. And then I'll mention Zubats at 5,500 just because I like contractually obligated to at this point. Just not getting any ownership. He's cheap. He's likely to play 30 plus minutes if he's playing well. He's at 0.86 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played with George and Kawhi this year. So not like it's a priority, but I think he's just going a little bit overlooked, especially given that we have a lot of ownership going to some very questionable guys in the 5K range.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit further into the George and Kawhi conversation and just get a little nuance from you on that, right? Like Kawhi, $900 more expensive on DraftKings, $1,300 more expensive on FanDuel. Obviously, there's a big discrepancy in ownership as a result. I mean, it should be that way, right?
with George getting more ownership.
No, I'm saying it should be this big of a gap in ownership, given these two price points, right? Like, I guess what I'm asking is there a path to say, well, there's always a path, but to look at this and go, like, all right, Kawhi Leonard is more expensive, getting way less ownership. Maybe that's someone I'd like to get more of as a result, or is it just not really worthwhile given the same or very similar per minute rates on these guys all year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that George is the better play. So, like, in a given lineup, if you can get to Kawhi without sacrificing too much and you just want the lower owned guy, then sure. But like, if you look at the last game those guys played, Paul George played 37 minutes. Kawhi played 39. You can say, you can argue that Kawhi is going to get an extra minute or two on George. And I think that's very, very reasonable. But overall this year, in the games that they've played together, 1.25 DraftKings points per minute for George, about 1.2 for Kawhi. They're just very, very similar players. And one is $900 less expensive.
Right.
And like, it's backed up. If you look at the boom bust tool, you have 23% ownership coming into George, 13% to Kawhi. But in terms of optimal percentage, 23% to George, 13% to Kawhi. So you're not necessarily, other than just lowering your raw ownership of your lineup, which does have its merits, you're not really gaining anything by going from George to Kawhi because they're both projected to be correctly owned.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Like you said, 23% optimal, slight positive leverage on Paul George, slight negative leverage on Kawhi, but yeah, 23 to 12.5%. optimal lineup probability. So it's pretty significant. Now, is there any other value that we can scrape from the bottom of this Clippers team? Because generally in this case, the answer is no.
Yeah, I don't really think so. I mean, we kind of talked about Jackson and Batum and Kennard. Like, those guys are all cheap enough where if they end up in some lineups out of 150, fine. Hopefully you get lucky, but I don't think you're really going out of your way to get to any of them.
I think the Bulls get a little bit more site specific here. Like, Levine's $7,200, small shooting guard, small forward eligible on FanDuel. And then over on DraftKings, you're looking at some stark differences here, right? 8,100, of course, shooting guard, small forward eligible, but 13% owned. Then you come over to the boom bust tool and you start to see something pretty similar, right? Like, you've got Zach LaVine with a 15% optimal score, 1.7 positive leverage on DraftKings, so not bad. On FanDuel, however, Zach LaVine 28% optimal score. But what's interesting, and you could lay this out for everybody, especially those with action on FanDuel tonight, 35% ownership, 28% optimal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broken price tag on FanDuel. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, that means a little bit less on FanDuel since you don't have the guard and forward spots, but still means you can roster him at 4 different positions. And he's just $7,200. He's $1,300 less than DeRozan. He's $1,000 less than Vooch. He deserves the ownership he's getting. Like, he's going a little bit over owned, but a 28% chance of being optimal. He just looks really good. On DraftKings, he looks good as well, but he is a little bit more expensive. I do think he's a reasonable pivot, to that ownership that's going to, like, Jalen Brunson, for example, different positions, but similar price point, shooting guard, small forward eligible. So you can roster him in 5 out of the 8 potential spots in your lineup. So it's easy to get him in there. And he's only pulling 13% ownership. He should give you 35, 36 minutes, assuming this game's competitive. He always gives you a high ceiling. So I think that makes him really interesting in tournaments just from a relative lack of ownership standpoint on DraftKings. And then he's a good tournament play on FanDuel just because he's one of the most likely players to succeed. Beyond that, Vooch, DeRozan, neither one pulling that much ownership either. 12% on DraftKings to Vooch, 8.5% to DeRozan, but they are priced up to where it becomes kind of difficult to really prioritize them. So I think it's more just, secondary tournament options there.
I know you're not hand building tonight, but how viable is it to go with a balanced type lineup today? And I saw some comments in chat. I thought it'd be a relevant conversation, just given that none of the value is particularly great. What do you think the merits are to kind of, in some lineups, foregoing that value, which would mean you're not getting to Giannis, you're not getting to Jokic likely, but you could get to, a lot of these mid-range, upper mid-range guys without having to dumpster dive into these really rough value plays, sketchy value plays?
I think it's very reasonable. I mean, obviously the reason it's so scary if you go that route is that Giannis and Jokic are like the two most, them along with Luka are like the three most difficult pay up guys to justify not getting to, just because they're such good point per minute guys. And, you have Giannis here in a great matchup as well against Charlotte that, we haven't talked about yet, but so that's why you're getting there. But in terms of, arguing for a more balanced lineup right now, I think you can make that case because not only is the value questionable, but with there being 5 games, there's a pretty limited number of just value plays in general. Like when you're just thinking about how many guys that are cheap can you justify getting to, like if right now I just, built out the top 100 projected lineups I could, not using randomness or anything. And they all have Giannis, or they mostly have Giannis, but like they all have Connaughton, a bunch have Mark Williams, like 75% have Quentin Grimes. You're just going to run into situations where your Giannis lineups or your Jokic lineups look very similar to everybody else's. Whereas if you get away from the Mark Williams, 16 minutes, hopefully, and the Quentin Grimes and, Pat Connaughton type plays, you hope those guys have mediocre games. It creates a situation where, yes, if Giannis or Jokic go out there and score 80 points, it doesn't really matter if the value came through or not. You're going to need those guys in your lineup one way or another. But if you get 65 DraftKings points from Giannis and, Mark Williams only goes for 15 or 16 and Grimes goes for, 17 or 18 instead of 20 and 23, like they're projected for, then you can be in a good situation. Like if you get a good Brunson game and a good, Brook Lopez game and a good Jamal Murray game, all together, there is at least a little bit easier path to that succeeding on a slate like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all that you just get good game. You don't need to have like a career game from a Jamal Murray or from, one of these other mid-range plays, but getting you, high 40s or something across the board there is going to look really nice. It's just a matter of whether or not Giannis and Jokic, as Eric Lindquist would say, nuke the slate.
Yeah, just don't tweet that.
Yeah, no. Probably already got flagged here on the YouTube. All right. Anything else for Chicago you want to get into?
Patrick Williams is pulling ownership right now, 18%. Again, it's just the slate. He's 4,900. He's likely to give you 32 minutes or so. You're never going into a slate being like, oh man, I can't wait to play Patrick Williams, but he just projects as a very useful option in terms of roster construction. You're seeing ownership come into the Sunmu as well at 3,700. I think Alex Caruso is a really interesting pivot there. He's $300 more than the Sunmu, but right now he's getting like 1/6 the ownership. Dosunmu should start and play 26 to 28 minutes, but if Caruso is playing well, you can easily get 28 minutes from him off the bench. So I don't really know why on a slate where we're so starved for value, Alex Caruso is only pulling 1%.
Yeah. 1% at that price point compared to everybody else that we've talked about at similar price points getting 25, 30%.
Yeah. I mean, and we only have him projected for like 14 DraftKings points, which seems weird. I want to see how many minutes we have him at. So we only have him at 20 minutes, which is reasonable. Like he played 21 last game, but he easily could play more. It's not a guarantee he does because you have Kobe White, you have Dragic, you have Dosunmu in the rotation. But Caruso is a very good defender. You've got two, ball dominant guys. Granted, they're a bit bigger than Caruso on the Clips. If he plays well, there's at least a path to him getting more minutes here.
Yeah, sure. Maybe he has one of those like 4 steal games, as you mentioned. Great defender. I mean, I have a soft spot for him because last year,
because he looks like your boss.
Yeah, that's why. Last year, we had just every single game. It was plus money on over 1.5 steals for Caruso when he came back from injury, and he just kept smashing it. And he's very capable of getting that done. Now, granted, at the time, he was playing legit starter minutes, 33, 35 per game, which hasn't been the case recently. He's also not a guy that's going to get up a ton of shots, but honestly, dude, the one thing with Caruso to add to this or to finish it is what I was just saying. You mentioned he's a good defensive player. He is the type of guy that could give you the 4 or 5 steal game. Matter of fact, he has a 4 steal game in 22 minutes just 5 games ago. He's got 4, 3, 1, 3, 2 steals. Like if you just got decent production elsewhere, and he ends up with a good defensive game from a statistical standpoint, you could be getting the 25 fantasy points here at that price.
Yeah. And I mean, for what it's worth, he's played 26 games this year where DeRozan, Levine, and Vooch have all been active and where Caruso has come off the bench. He's averaged 23 minutes per game, 0.73 DraftKings points per minute. So like, you're not expecting anything crazy, but that's like a 16 to 17 point projection, which is the same as it's, not too far behind. I would assume it's similar to those $3,200 guys that are getting ownership. So again, like I get why Caruso is getting less than all those guys, given that he is a little bit more expensive,
but not 1%.
It just seems like it should be more than 1%.
All right.
I never want to talk about Alex Caruso that much again.
Well, it's one of those slates, man.
Yeah.
We can go back to Quentin Grimes at 23% if you'd like. I mean, it's ugly. But hey, live before lock coming up, taking you up and through lock as they always do. We are 193 likes from 500 with 2,300 people watching. I would imagine of those 2,300 plus people, there are some of you out there that are feeling kind and benevolent and would like to do so and get us over that number. Do it for Jordan Klein producing today's show. He always loves when I bring him into this. Throw up producer cam, Jordan. Go ahead. Son of a bitch, man. We get this set up just for you. And anyway, I told you guys, and we got 2 games to go. Plenty. Oh, did you do it? Wow. All right. All right. Love it. I told you guys earlier in the show, before we get to these final 2 games, we got 20 minutes, plenty of time. Did I tell you how to get a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum? There's 2 ways to do it. So almost certainly, no matter what state you're in, you're probably going to be able to take advantage of this. And when I said you really only need 2 minutes and $10, dead serious, right? This is no gimmick. This is no sham. This is very simple. If you haven't checked Prize Picks out yet, number 1, you're getting up to $100 first match deposit bonus. Number 2, every single sport that we have on the site, right? Put it this way, any contest out there, we have content for it. Whether it's tennis, golf, MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL, amazing showdown tools coming up for the Super Bowl, MMA, NASCAR, you name it. We've got it taken care of. All the tools, whether it's top stacks, boom bust, all the simulation tools, all the projections, all of the ownership for everything. You're getting that $120 value the entire month, and the Discord for every sport, all of that. And if you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, you can do that too. All you got to do is sign up at Prize Picks. The link is in the description, and you're getting up to $100 first match deposit bonus there. The good thing is it's a good site. It's a fun site. Josh has been throwing his Prize Picks out there every single day. I love it. If you hit all 5, or you're just building lineups with player props, no juice on either side, just over, under, you can mix as many sports as you want. You hit all 5, you 10X. You hit 6 of 6, you're 25Xing. But unlike a traditional parlay, if you hit 4 or 5 here on Prize Picks, you still 2X. You still make money back when you hit 3 or 5. So we're talking a free month, $120 value, all of our tools, all of them built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, plus $100 first match deposit bonus at Prize Picks. It's a beautiful thing. So check it out. Now, Jackie, we need Laffy doing League of Legends. Yeah, okay. Soon enough. Maybe during COVID, you still couldn't have convinced me. If Prize Picks isn't available to you, because Prize Picks is available in mostly non-legal betting states, BetMGM, man, this one might even be better. Take 2 minutes of your time, find $10 laying around the house. Use the link and put both links in, Jordan, for Prize Picks and BetMGM. So because like 48 states, I think there's 48 states where one of these is available. Put it on anything. For me, personally, it's going to be A.J. Brown over receiving yards. But if you're doing it tonight, use our Bet Pro tool. Use Adam's free video on the Odd Shopper channel. Pick a bet. Once that bet settles, you got a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. And you also have first bet insurance up to $1,000. That first bet loses, you get it all back in bonus bets. So whether it's MGM or Prize Picks, you want the free month of Stokastic plus Platinum, you got it for both. You want the deposit bonuses, all that, take advantage of it. Links in the description. And of course, you must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAME. Oh, I'm getting good at that. All right, let's go. Skip, you can find $10. Come on, man. You can find $10. You're parlaying that into an easy 120, getting all those tools, and then turning that even in more money, man. That's why we do this. We want you to use the tools because you're going to win, and then you're going to stick around. It's that simple. Transparency here. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep this going, Adam, with Charlotte and Milwaukee. We'll start with the sorry, I had to catch my breath there. We'll start with the Charlotte side. We got to talk about Mark Williams. Discussed it a lot on the strategy show today. He's dirt cheap, very popular. What are the pitfalls of Mark Williams today, and what are the benefits of Mark Williams today?
The pitfall is that Mark Williams might just not play.
I was trying to set you up for that. Okay.
We've seen Mark Williams typically be the backup center for Charlotte. He's like a 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guy. If he if he is the backup center tonight, he is one of the best values at 3,400. Even assuming he just plays like 16 minutes, he's going to project for like 20 to 21 DraftKings points. He's going to look really good. The downside is just occasionally you get Nick Richards as the backup center, in which case you are absolutely screwed because then you're getting 0 from Mark Williams. So that's the downside. But as long as they do go to him as the backup center, he's going to look really good. It's obviously scary. Right now we have him projected for 39% ownership for a guy that, is probably like 10 to 15% to not play. I would say that's like a decent guess. But, he is a good value as long as he does play. We still, in our most recent ownership update, have him at 39%. So a very, very good value as long as he steps on the floor. The risky thing about backups is just that, you don't get any sort of guarantee that they're going to step on the floor.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
I did put a pretty decent sized bet on his over rebounds today. So I like the chances of him not stepping on the floor.
That is our number one. That is our top rated prop in the bet in the NBA.
Actually, if he doesn't play at all, does it get voided or I lose?
If he doesn't step on the court?
Yeah.
I usually don't put bets on guys that might not step on the court.
Yeah, it's a decent rule of thumb, I think.
What's it, over 4.5? Dude, the Bet Pro tool loves the over though.
Yeah.
66%.
Yeah, so chat, I thought it was voided. Chat saying voided. So basically, I just need to avoid Nick Richards playing and then the game blowing out and Mark Williams getting like 2 minutes of garbage run.
All right. So the hope here is that he doesn't play at all.
No, the hope is that he plays and hits the over.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the hope is that if he doesn't get that it's either he gets there or he the last thing you want is him playing 10 minutes.
Right. I want him either being the backup center or I want him DNPing. I don't want Nick Richards, the backup center, and then 3 minutes of Mark Williams garbage time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's going to be a fun sweat, dude. You put a decent amount on it.
I'm just going to be sweating the Charlotte game, like right around the time Plumlee's supposed to come out to see who comes off the bench.
Yeah. But yeah, he's very popular today. No doubt. Our Bet Pro tool, free for the first week, by the way. Been crushing lately. Adam has a video on that every day. That has him as the number one bet, over 4.5 rebounds. So there's something to it. What about, I want to jump around for a second here. What about LaMelo at 8%?
I mean, the ceiling's obviously high. The issue is just that, like, you have this lack of value, and I don't know how often I want to be going to these mediocre value plays to get to LaMelo instead of like all the way up to one of the highest, highest upside guys. But 9,500 for LaMelo is a reasonable price tag, pulling 10% ownership right now on DraftKings, 11.5% chance of being optimal. So is projected to go a little bit under owned. I think that he's fine.
Do you think, as far as like we're talking about Mark Williams, but do you think Plumlee's in play here? Is there anyone going up against this Milwaukee team? 11-point dogs, of course. Slate like this, you can't really be too focused on that. But is there anybody else that stands out? I mentioned Rozier earlier being in that same tier as Jalen Brunson, the same position. Anybody else you like here for Charlotte?
I think any of Plumlee, Rozier, McDaniels make sense as tournament pivots. Like, they're all pulling around 9% ownership. Plumlee, you probably don't want to play him with Mark Williams. I mean, the dream case for Mark Williams is that not only does he step on the floor, but you get like Plumlee foul trouble or something. But Plumlee works as like a good leverage play against Williams, because if Plumlee plays 34 minutes, then at most you're getting 14 from Williams, for example. So I think, Plumlee is just kind of interesting in tournaments. He's projected to go a bit over-owned. Terry Rozier, you compared him to Brunson. Brunson's clearly the better projected player, but you're getting 3 times the ownership to Brunson. Similarly with Jalen McDaniels, like, I would rather get to Patrick Williams at the same price, but Patrick Williams is getting 2.5 times the ownership. It's pretty difficult to argue that Patrick Williams should be 2.5 times any player that's likely to play 30 minutes in the NBA that isn't like Tony Snell from a couple years ago. So I think they all just sort of work as, tournament pivots. You can make the same case for Hayward. Even Dennis Smith Jr. playing like 20 to 22 minutes off the bench. throw him into that like Alex Caruso conversation where he's only pulling 3% ownership. He's 8% to be optimal. So he's a low probability play. But, again, you kind of just need to get creative, and especially in larger field tournaments with some of these value options.
And just throwing this out there, I mean, sure, they're 11-point dogs. They still have a 117 implied total. They have the same implied total as the Knicks today.
Yeah, I mean, you could, and like this is one of those situations where, they're 11-point dogs. There's a decent chance this game blows out. But if this just kind of holds at like a 10-point game the whole way through, you could very easily just have this be a game where plenty of guys from Charlotte do well.
Yeah, man. All right, let's talk about the Bucks. Speaking of 128 implied, they have a 10-point higher implied total than anybody else on this slate. Game sitting at 244.5 right now. Giannis, 1.74 DraftKings points per minute this season. You don't really need to even outline the superlatives, but like career high 39% usage, 30% assist rate, 19% rebound rate. These type of numbers don't even make sense. Yeah,
and also forward eligible. So, the pay-up options tonight, you're basically comparing him to LeBron and Jokic, and LeBron playing with Davis obviously is going to be behind those guys, but Jokic, center only, so the opportunity cost is higher and you have less roster flexibility. Giannis plays the weakest position. He's power forward center on DraftKings. It would be better if he were small forward, but on FanDuel he is small forward, power forward, so he's even easier to get to. It's a phenomenal spot. 12K is a healthy price tag, but he is one of the two clear top projected options. So certainly happy to get to Giannis where you can. 20% chance of being optimal, 24% projected ownership. Pat Connaughton pulling nearly 30% ownership. He's another one where like he's clearly a good play. He's 4,500. He has a 25% chance of being optimal. So going a little bit over owned. It never is going to feel good to play a 30% owned Pat Connaughton, but he just projects as an underpriced, really useful option. Brook Lopez in a favorable matchup here, also potentially getting a little bit more playing time with no Bobby Portis. He's pulling 20% ownership. That's probably about where it should be. Joe Ingles, Grayson Allen pulling some ownership just because value on this slate sucks. Chris Middleton played 17.5 minutes last game. His price tag is down to 5,400, but I just don't get the impression they're ramping him up quickly at all. So, even if he gets like 20 minutes here, it's unlikely he gives you a big enough game that you would really want him, even though that price tag is starting to get tempting.
I was gonna, 15, 15, 15, and 18 minutes.
I mean, it's just like if they go, okay, he's playing, like if he plays 24 minutes tonight, he's a great play at 5,400 and no ownership. It's just that I think expecting like 20 makes more sense.
Yeah. Was he, just wanted to see something. Okay. I was wondering because they won that game against New Orleans in just absolute blowout fashion. I wasn't sure if it was looking like he was going to play more minutes down the stretch before the blowout, but it's kind of tough to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. He played like 9 to 10 in the first half.
So even if you're optimistic, it's probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, and one thing, like they did bring Giannis in for him in that game. So like in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So it's not like they subbed him out the same time they took out like Drew and Giannis, and it was like, oh, maybe he was going to close and play an extra 4 minutes. Like they took him out and brought a closer in.
Yeah, and then just ran away with it once again.
Like Drew Holiday played to the 1 minute 13 second mark. Giannis played to the 1 minute 13 second mark. Middleton came out at 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
The fact that Middleton came out for Giannis tells you, I think, a decent amount as far as.
Yeah, I think it was like, okay, cool. We got him to that 17 to 18 minutes and now he's done.
Yep. So yeah, maybe 20 minutes. All right, let's wrap this one up. And as always, we appreciate you guys. We're over 400 likes here. I'm still holding out hope. We got 98 to go in the next 6 minutes with 2,600 people watching. Don't make me call the dogs on you. Don't make me bring Adam in here to get us over the hump. He does not want to, I can tell you that much. A tough job. All right, New Orleans and Denver. So I actually want to start with Josh and I talked about this quite a bit today. Now, okay, this makes more sense that his ownership came up a little bit. It was super low. It was like 2% this morning. And I'm thinking, man, Brandon Ingram at 2%, even though the minutes haven't been crazy, even though he hasn't looked great in his return. I mean, that's interesting. 42% usage in the 2 games since he's been back. I know he hasn't shot particularly well at all. I know he's played 26 and 29 minutes, but he has just been absolutely chucking since returning, and you still have no Zion Williamson on the floor.
Yeah, I think Ingram's definitely starting to look interesting here. 7,600 is a price tag where clearly you need him to get to play, close to real minutes. Yeah. But he's played
I'm thinking he could get 32, right? Maybe 33 in a spot.
Yeah, I was thinking 30 to 32, somewhere in there makes sense. Certainly could play more, but that would be my best guess. But in the 5 games he's played this year, where McCollum's been in and Zion's been out, 31.7% usage rate, 25.5% assist percentage, only 10% ownership. I do think that's starting to be interesting. Again, you do have a lot of plays in this range that look really good. So that's one reason that you're not seeing more ownership there. But yeah, it's definitely getting to that point where, Ingram's price tag is slowly falling as his playing time is trending up. It's going to, reach that overlap in the next game or two where it's just like, oh, Ingram just went from being not interesting at all to being like one of the best plays on the slate. I certainly don't think he's one of the best plays today, but there's always the chance that it just happens a game early and, he does play 35 today as opposed to, I assume, 35 next game.
Marcus Morris is out.
Yeah, cool. More Clipper shit. Probably Batum starting, I guess.
Think, right? And by the way, Covington's in and Reggie Jackson's in.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, again, Reggie Jackson as a pivot from Rubio makes some sense.
All right.
That's a sentence that feels like it came from like 2017.
Where else? How about Larry Nance as a value play today? Just knowing that on a per minute basis, he's not one of the worst guys you could find at 4,100.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good value. I mean, the risk is that they're still not playing him alongside Joval all that often. So if you happen to get a 28 to 30 minute game from Joval, you're probably getting 18 to 20 from Nance. But, more often than not, it's going to be like 26 Joval, 22 Nance. Last game, you saw the inverse where you got 26 Nance, 22 Joval. He's 4,100 with power forward eligibility. So he just looks like a good value, pulling 19% as a result. Herb Jones at 4,200 is pulling 13%. He's another one where, he's not a good point per minute guy, but he should just be out there for enough minutes to be a pretty good value. Joval in tournaments is really interesting just because he does negatively correlate with Nance, and Nance is getting more than double the ownership. If you do get that big Joval game where he plays a bunch of minutes, it's very likely Nance is playing fewer minutes than the field's expecting. So I like the Joval pivot, for that reason. McCollum gets pretty tough to get to with Ingram back. Certainly from an ownership standpoint, going a little bit under owned and another Jalen Brunson pivot. Like, I don't really like McCollum that much with Ingram back and playing more minutes, but he's not 20% to beat Jalen Brunson. He's going to win more often than that. So again, in tournaments, I think fine, but the guys you're getting to the most here are probably just the value pieces with Nance and Jones.
All right, let's wrap this one up. Oh, and we hit 500. Well, we're 4 away. So appreciate you guys. Never in doubt. Denver. Jamal Murray. I mean, he's questionable, but assume he's in right now. He's pretty popular. I mean, listen, dude's been balling lately. And it's funny because you and I did a show where I was like, man, Jamal Murray, this guy needs to score. And it had been that way for a lot of what he did. Not to say he can't rack up assists, but he's the second best playmaker on his own team. And the best playmaker is a center. And then not long after that, he comes out, throws up a triple double. The assist numbers on Murray have looked solid lately too. It's not just the points, but I mean, potential assists, assist rate, everything looks pretty good on him right now. And he's playing 38, 40, and 39 minutes over his last 3 games.
Yeah, he's playing huge minutes. And a couple of weeks ago, we got Michael Malone starting to stagger him completely with Jokic, which is always just really, really good for him. If you assume Jokic is going to play around 34 minutes or so, you're talking about getting about 14 minutes where Jamal Murray is out there without Jokic and also without all of the other starters. Like, he's playing these minutes with Bruce Brown, Bones Highland, Jeff Green, and Zeke Naji, while every other starter is on the bench. You should just get Jamal Murray putting up massive numbers in those minutes. And then it's not like he's a bad option when he's on the floor with Jokic. He just loses some of those assist opportunities. He loses some usage. But it's really important the way that Denver's been running this rotation, letting him run with the second unit and really be the guy out there. So it makes him look really good. The price tag's favorable. The playing time's been great, like you said. Looks like a very, very good option here. He is questionable. If he were to sit, it opens up probably Bruce Brown moving into the starting lineup at 5,200 and playing more minutes. It makes Jokic look better. It makes Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. look at least somewhat better. Bones Highland has an easier path to success, though he always is capable of disappearing, whether Murray's in or out. But a cheap Bones Highland would look at least marginally better if Murray's out as well. So really, really big information or big news we're waiting on there, because I think Murray's one of the best guard options if he's in. And then if he's out, you're just getting this whole team that starts to look better.
And then if you have him in though, and you don't find out until the other 4 games lock, hopefully you have him in the utility spot.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be able to swap around. The nice thing is that Bruce Brown has guard eligibility. So, worst case, you can just swap Jamal Murray down to him.
Yeah.
If he's in the utility spot though, you can at worst get him to Gordon or Brown or Porter.
Or Brandon Ingram if you have $100.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's true too. I was gonna say, plus like there are plays on New Orleans, Nance pulling ownership, Jones pulling ownership, but also like if you're playing a lot of lineups, you're going to be getting to some Ingram and some Joe Val and some McCollum as well. So you'll probably, even though this is the last game of the night by 2 hours, you'll probably still be able to swap around fairly easily.
Yeah, I think you're right. It looks like it at least. Anything else for Denver for you?
Nikola Jokic is really good.
He's not bad. We'll wrap it up with this. Turn it over to the Live Before Lock crew. They got you covered. You're in good hands for this one. Who do we got? We got the same boys as always. We got Greg and Eric. Engleman and Josh Engleman and Ehrenberg. Okay. And they're going to 7:30 as well. Little Prize Picks after show. Stick around for that. We had a question from Mike saying, how much would it take for Adam to sincerely say, smash that like button and subscribe? Now we gotta wait. We gotta wait until we really need it. Although I think you say it on your solo videos.
I did start adding it in on the last couple.
Ooh,
I haven't gone back to look to see if it's worked or not, but
okay. He's coming around, fellas. See, it's you. He sees how much success we have with this, and he's like, I gotta check this shit out for myself. Appreciate you guys. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Lafayette_D. And Jordan, who unveiled his face today, is a beautiful thing. Jordan Klein producing this one. Engleman, Ehrenberg coming up next. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace. Yo, it's that time of week again. Time to induct some of you fine people, and we got a lot of them today into the Hall of Fame right here at Stokastic. And of course, give out some free monthly memberships, $120 value to Stokastic Plus Platinum. Let's get it going. But first, you want to get involved? All you got to do is go to stokastic.com/avatar. Download the avatar, the profile pic, use it wherever it is you play, and tweet your wins to @Stokastic HOF on Twitter. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Boom, you're in. Free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame right here every week with yours truly. Let's kick it off with a big one here. And I got to say, makes me feel good seeing the brand new lineup generator helping Rajal win $50,000, saying thank you guys so much. The process has finally paid off. The lineup generator helped me build this. $50K, baby, with the lineup generator. Absolutely have to love that over there on Stokastic. And then Tom Kennedy, Stokastic CEO, coming up big. First and fifth place, 100,000, 2,000 in the NBA fadeaway. Another huge one here at Team Stokastic. And how about our boy SG? Some really nice lineups in the last couple of weeks. Shout out to the guys at Stokastic. That's $5,000 for Sean Geezy, and then $4,000 in just a couple weeks apart. Congrats, man. That's huge. And how about Alex Baker? Awesome himself. Boom. I love this. You see the no house advantage. We talk about the overlay every single day. Boom. It pays to take advantage of the overlay on no house advantage. I see what you did there, fella. Tied for first, 12,000. Third place, a bunch of time. I mean, just taking it down top to bottom. Our boy Alex Baker taking that overlay and turning it into something big over there at No House Advantage. And Rick woke up after a short nap to this. Yeah, that must have been pleasant. I just can't say enough about how awesome this site is. And to the @DBC, I listen every day. I had to ask Jordan what that was. Thanks for all the laughs as well as the info. Much love. Big $15,000 win for Rick. Congrats, Rick. That's big. And Ernesto, $5,000, ex-Royal Pro. Just a bunch of hands up. Hey, shout out to you guys. It's Stokastic. Congrats, Ernesto. And Austin Mills, we're getting closer. Tagging Matt Gajeski here in the 250K spy, fifth place, $5,000 to Austin. Followed up by R.I. Lee. Well, I know what WTF, bro, 97. This one's big. $500, one entry. And you want to talk about massive bankroll boost, huge ROI. In the quarter, fadeaway, 25-cent entry, $500, first out of 41,000. Thank you to everyone at Stokastic for the amazing projections, content, and tools for the awesome takedown. Yeah, that's massive, man. And Robert Demore, you guys are the best. YouTube show really helped me. Free month, let's go. Hell yeah, dude. $1,000 in the NFL 10K huddle. And they just keep coming. T-Buzz, thanks to Stokastic. Love the NBA lineup builder. Yep, we got that too. Paired with the deeper dive and live before lock shows really helped me last night. Mid-range jumper, 1,500, second place, big. And then Optimal Prime or Crook with the Rook. Good looking Stokastic team, best tools in the business. They also have a lot of content to help explain how to apply these tools. Yeah, otherwise it's going to be tough. Hopefully I can still get my free month. Absolutely, dude. $12,500 for Optimal Prime. And Thomas Goss, nice little lick in the end. Here's, dude, the ROI on this one's crazy. Turn my $6 into $1,000 thanks to the crew. And of course, Awesemo DFS for all the strategic content and analysis. It doesn't stop there because you got our boy EMAC. Thanks to Stokastic, change DFS sites for a new challenge. The Stokastic tools have been fire along with the advice from the fellas on the shows. EMAC, look at that, second for $1,000. And then Matt, woo, love your content. He says $600 in the pick and roll. Third place, I'm running out of breath here. Let's go to the betting side for a second because we got the NBA prop tool out now as well. Best 250, don't expect this on everyone, but best 250 ever spent. NBA betting tools strike again. Yeah, BetPro's been insane. 250 in the 700 in a 22 leg, same game parlay. Congrats, Brendan from Buffalo. And to close these out, H, Stokastic Hall of Fame. Thanks. Hey, first place in the quarter jukebox. Told you guys a million times, you know this. Doesn't matter what field or how much you're playing. As long as you're rocking the avatar, you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. You're getting up here and you're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And lastly, Rowdy DFS, I assume, or Rowdy FS, finally took down the NBA dribbler on FanDuel. It's close enough to 5K entries with current inflation. Thanks for all the shows, bros. Congrats to all of you guys. Remember, Stokastic.com/avatar. Use it wherever it is you play. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame and win a free month, Stokastic Plus Platinum, and get inducted right here.
If the people know that, it's not the end of the world. I'll change the whole schedule. I have the power to do it.
Oh, you're counting. I wasn't even looking at you. And we are live, Jordan. I mean, I've been waiting for you. You've been sitting around not doing anything. Yeah. Don't act like that. That's ridiculous. What's going on, everybody? Live before lock here. I am Josh Engleman, joined by Greg Ehrenberg, which means no Eric Lindquist on this one. So much like Twitter, he's just not around. Yeah. It's going to be better for everybody involved. Hit that like button if you haven't done it already. We're up to 600 plus. We got Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass. But Greg, we haven't done a show in like a while, I think.
Which is crazy because we used to I probably did more shows with you than anybody for a long period of time. And now I'm stuck with Eric behind me, metaphorically and, whatever, pretty much every night now. So it's really a different mix up to have you here. There's going to be a lot less singing, which I think a lot of people should feel pretty good about. And then also for me, I haven't done one of these shows that I haven't hosted in a really long time. So I'm pretty excited about that as well.
I would be more than willing to turn over the hosting duties to you just because you know the beats of this show better than me. But I think we're going to get it on a 5-game slate that at this point basically doesn't have news that we're waiting on. Like, I guess we're waiting on Jamal Murray. The chances of that coming out while you and I are live feel like close to zero. I don't even know what we could possibly... I know I'm speaking this into existence now that something ridiculous is going to happen at 6:45, but like there's just nothing out there that is going to trip us up here. At least not that I could tell.
You wouldn't think so based on this slate. And it's funny because it's the last time I was on a slate with this little amount of news was actually we somehow conned Adam into doing live before lock, which never would have thought that would have been possible. And then we got this, it was like a 3-game slate. And the Spurs starting lineup came out 2 minutes before lock, and Keldon Johnson wasn't in it when he wasn't on the injury report. So you never know, like shit comes out of nowhere. But I kind of hope that happens on a slate like this because it would create an edge that we otherwise, wouldn't foresee.
I think the edge out there today is just avoiding some of this ridiculous chalk, which I guess we're about to talk about now. So I'm ready to do that if you are.
I am ready.
So the run sheet says that we should start at guard. So I guess I'm going to start at guard. Let's just talk about what we're seeing at the top end, because just like ownership in general is kind of ridiculous. Have we gotten an update in the past hour? Like, I can't imagine it's changed much.
We
got one 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So what has changed, because we got a projections update and ownership update. Yeah, like you said, a few minutes ago. And the thing that just accounted for is that Marcus Morris isn't playing now.
Okay. So as I update this, just to look at ownership for guards, the highest owned guard on DraftKings today is Jalen Brunson, which I completely agree with. And it's starting to funnel, at least for guards, at the top of guys with an actual pulse. Brunson, Murray, Paul George, Tyler Hero. Then you get into some of the more bleak stuff like Grimes, Ricky Rubio, Joe Ingles, Reggie Jackson. As you look at just sort of like the general ownership, sort of the most owned plays at guard, how do you feel about some of the chalk? Anything that you like, anything that you don't like?
Yeah, so let me sort by the most recent ownership here and see what really stands out to me. I agree with you, by the way. Jalen Brunson chalk does certainly make sense. He's actually the guard who in the last run I did end up getting the most of any guard on the entire slate. And something else too is for a 5-game slate, it's not like we have 50% owned pieces. We don't have 40% owned pieces. There's actually not a single guard over on DraftKings that's picking up over 30% ownership. FanDuel's a different story. FanDuel, we've got Jalen Brunson project for 49% ownership. So I think we could talk about them a little bit differently. Is there one site in particular you're looking at first, though?
I'm now back to DraftKings.
Look at you. Too many slates that got canceled for no reason at all.
FanDuel had been just running really terrible payout structures. Oddly enough, they do have 100K up top for today, but I just got tired of their garbage tournaments, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, no, I think that also is totally reasonable and makes sense amongst the other faux pas as of late. But yeah, I can look at this both from DraftKings and FanDuel perspectives, and they are pretty vastly different today. But starting with the most popular guards, like we said, I think Jalen Brunson makes a whole lot of sense at the top. We do have Jamal Murray projected for a ton of ownership now. These scenarios get so tricky when players are questionable, though. So number one, I think the ownership looks weird to begin with. Like that to me seems like more ownership than is warranted on Jamal Murray, but I also don't think he's going to end up with that much ownership because I expect him to hold the questionable tag into lock.
I hope that he holds that questionable tag into lock because he is my second most exposed guard right now. And I will happily soak up the Jamal Murray bonus, like percentage points. Even if just 5% less of the people don't take Jamal Murray because of that Q tag, I'll take that for today. Because I think on a day like today, where we don't really have a ton of good anything, getting that like upper mid-tier guy that I think is probably a couple $100 under projected is one of the few places that you could actually squeeze out a little bit of value. So assuming Murray is in, given the minutes that he's been playing as of late, I'm happy to get there.
Yeah, no, that certainly makes sense. From that standpoint, there's clearly an upside there. It was a little jarring to me to just look at it and see that he was projected to be the second most rostered guard on all of DraftKings for tonight. And then as opposed to where he's at on FanDuel, where Jamal Murray is currently projected for 14% ownership. And, he's a little more expensive. 14% is a little more expensive at 7,900, but still to be $400 more expensive to me than he is like half the ownership. It's a pretty big ownership gap between the two sites.
How do you want to handle, let's just say the general garbage at the top? Quentin Grimes, Ricky Rubio at 17%, Reggie Jackson, Joe Ingles. I'm drawing some pretty firm lines in the sand with some of these guys. I don't know how I feel about that, but I don't like, there are some guys that I'm getting. I don't have Ricky Rubio. I don't have Reggie Jackson. I do have quite a bit of Joe Ingles. I do have Quentin Grimes. What are you doing with these like pay down options that are all just random?
So unfortunately, or fortunately, no matter, depending how you look at it, I'm fairly close to the field on a lot of these guys. I'm kind of differentiating elsewhere. Like right now, the last run I did, the pay up guard that I'm getting to the most outside of Jalen Brunson. And by the way, to answer your question, it's not really where I'm, at least as of right now, my initial run, I'm not really differentiating at the low end. I'm more differentiating at the high end. Like I think LaMelo Ball is somebody who has a lot of upside that the field isn't really getting to. And that to me is an easier spot to differentiate. Like I think all of these cheap plays are garbage, but I understand why the field's getting to there because you kind of have to play some of them. Yeah. So with that in mind, I find it, for me at least, I'd rather have the high end guys like a LaMelo Ball be somebody to take a stand on than be like, I'm going to take a stand on like a Ricky Rubio or a Joe Ingles or anything like that.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I had a bunch more Ball earlier today. I have about 17% now. So I am curious to see where that ultimately ends up in the next 43 minutes, but I don't hate that take whatsoever. I am right now, like as I mentioned, I'm avoiding Rubio. I'm avoiding Reggie Jackson. I'm just going to hope that those guys continue to maintain their backup roles and they aren't all that interesting. Grimes is the guy that I recommend basically every slate anyway. And on this particular day, it seems like everybody else is going to be able to join me, but at least with guys like Grimes, we know he's going to be out there, or, barring injury, barring any sort of really weird quirk. This is a guy that's going to play heavy minutes. I'm willing to take my chances in situations like that, even on a day where like he is not a great per minute dude.
No, but like you said, the minutes are there. So he's somebody who, and I'm rerunning lineups right now, but I was, like I said, with Ricky Rubio, pretty close to the field on him. And somebody even like Ricky Rubio, I'll be interested to hear what your stance is on him and why you're trying to avoid him. But at least to me, he's somebody also, it's like, I guess if he plays a couple of extra minutes here, he's somebody who it seems like the Cavs would want to build up as the season goes on. I could see a path to upside there. I view Grimes as being the safer option and Ricky Rubio maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling option with a lot more variance involved.
Absolutely. Because every extra minute that you get at a Ricky Rubio is a high level benefit for you. Whereas every extra minute you get out of Quentin Grimes might not matter all that much. And there's not a lot of extra minutes to go around for Grimes at that point. I don't really have much to say. Like they just both, Rubio and Jackson just didn't show up in my optimals as frequently as they needed to matter. And I started getting to more 3K guys. Like we've got Isaac Okoro projected for 10% ownership. I just took like whatever ownership that I was getting to Reggie Jackson, and now I have it on Okoro. So I'm basically just taking other guys that aren't like, I'm getting Bones Highland at 4,300, which does make me a little bit nervous if he's even on the Nuggets tonight, but that's neither here nor there. Dosunmu, I'm a little bit heavier on. Grayson Allen, I'm a little bit heavy. I'm just picking out different guys at the bottom and basically doubling up on them in lieu of going to the ultra pay downs that have the ownership.
There is one pay down option that he's been sticking out to me a lot recently, and I don't have a ton of them right now, but I kind of am considering upping him just based on the player acumen. And maybe I think this is the hardest thing to adjust for, especially now where you and I were about the same age. We've seen like an entire generation of players come and go. It is hard for me to believe that Kyle Lowry should actually only be a $4,700 player on DraftKings and $5,200 on FanDuel. Like we're comparing, and I haven't played very much of Kyle Lowry. I played him a decent amount, one slate where Jimmy Butler got ruled out kind of on unexpectedly with like back soreness or something like that. And I got to Lowry really low ownership on that slate. that's really the only time I've played him for like the last month or something like that. But we talk about all of the trash players that we're bringing up right now. Like Kyle Lowry is not that much more expensive than those guys. And am I wrong for thinking that he's still somebody who's more competent as a fantasy producer than what he's shown lately?
Probably. Like, I don't. I have a little bit. I don't have a ton. I'm just shocked at like how bad he actually is. I mean, he's a 0.75 FanDuel point per minute guy over the last 30 days. That's basically where I have him projected. I think when like with Hero starting alongside him, with Butler out there, he's just a game manager. Like he is just out there to keep the ship organized. He's really not looking for himself at all. He's got like a 16 or 17% usage rate when all of these guys start together. Do I think that he could ramp it up on days where like these guys aren't in? Sure. Today feels like a really weird day for him to be like, I really want to take it to Cleveland.
Yeah. And I mean, once again, it's more so that like, has the price point come to a spot where it makes sense now? Because he's so cheap now. He's like I said, $4,700 on DraftKings, $5,200 on FanDuel. He's somebody right now I get to like 10, 15% of. But still, he's somebody who I just look at the name value of him and think like, if he goes out and scores like 25 fantasy points, he's probably going to be better than a lot of these other shitty cheap guys.
He certainly could be. Like, none of this is good. There are so many different dudes on today's slate that you can draw up a path for and feel exactly the same way as somebody else with a different guy. Whether that's Kyle Lowry, whether that's Ricky Rubio, Reggie Jackson, like all of these guys have a story to tell for today that is completely feasible, because this is one of the more unique slates that I could ever remember seeing, because the highest owned guy for today by a mile is a backup center that may or may not play. 3 out of the last 9 games the Hornets have played, he wasn't even the backup center. Like, so at least it's insane.
Yeah, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I did have that thought earlier where I was like, should I just be off of Mark Williams on this slate? But then I did see the coach did confirm the other day that he is going to be the backup center going forward, which did make me think like, okay, he's going to be the guy. And Mark Williams, such a good pointsman and fantasy producer. It's like, all right, I get it there. But yeah, I think those concerns are still warranted. Yeah, the most popular player on the slate right now on DraftKings is a center who a week ago played 6 minutes in a game and was randomly just not the backup center. They went to Nick Richards instead of him.
Yeah. Yep. Really fun. So earlier, I was very light on Mark Williams, and I don't mind that stance. If I get beat by that, I'm okay with it. It's a spot where I think I'm okay coming in under the mark. We'll see where that actually happens when I run my final crunch. Are there any other guards that you're getting to a lot that you would want to talk about?
I mean, I don't want to talk about any of these guys, but we're going to have to talk to them, talk about somebody. And, Paul George has guard eligibility on DraftKings. He's somebody who I also think is a little bit underpriced and also not crazy popular. So we've got Paul George projected for 22% ownership over on DraftKings. And this is one of these spots too, where the ownership, DraftKings to FanDuel, is so wildly different. He's 22% on DraftKings, 35% on FanDuel. And that's kind of where I end up with him on DraftKings. I end up with him, like 1.5x where the field is at on him right now. Like Paul George on a slate where we're kind of stretching to find value plays that we like. He's like a secondary star option, I think makes sense.
I have no problem with it. I actually thought I was going to get to a little bit more of Paul George right now. I don't have as much as I thought I would. I don't totally understand why either, which isn't really the best way to give analysis, but I don't have as much as I thought that I was going to have given that price tag. It might just be an ownership issue for right now in comparison to things that are around him. I don't really have my finger on the pulse of this Paul George one, because on paper, I think he looks great.
Yeah. And then once again, that's DraftKings. He is not all that popular. FanDuel is very popular, but still, I think it's warranted over there considering the price point at him at $8,300. Like, I think Paul George is somebody who I know we get a lot of super chats about who should we play in cash games on DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever it may be. Like, I think you're making a mistake if you don't play Paul George in FanDuel cash games.
Well, let's have that conversation because we got 2 super chats. One of them from John Bryant is best play at each position on DraftKings. And one of them from Michael McKinney is 5 must plays in FanDuel cash. So we're kind of overlapping with that question, but let's start with John Bryant's best play at each position on DraftKings. Hard to say that it's not Mark Williams, right?
Yeah. So at center, do you want to start at center?
I'm just, when you look at the ownership for DraftKings today,
yeah.
it's Mark Williams at the top. So I have to answer Mark Williams for DraftKings. Now, the difference between him at center and Nikola Jokic at center are two very distinctly different questions.
And in terms of points per dollar, I think that Mark Williams is definitely the best points per dollar play on DraftKings. Like not even close, right? There is a wiggle room in terms of minutes, and that is what's difficult about NBA projections, that you could only assign 1 minutes allotment to each player. And there's a somewhat wide range of outcomes with Mark Williams' minutes. But assuming he plays the minutes that he's played in the majority of his recent games, he's pretty clearly the best points per dollar play.
Agreed. I think Jalen Brunson is the best point guard option for today.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably have to say that Pat Connaughton is the best small forward option on DraftKings for today. Good God, this is gross. After that, I think you can flip a coin between Julius Randle and Giannis at power forward, depending on which direction you want to go here. Save a little bit of additional money with Randle, pay up a little bit further with Giannis. And then shooting guard, if you've got the money, it's PG. If you don't have the money, it's Quentin Grimes. That's a starting five that won't make the play-in.
No, that is unfortunately also for me, Quentin Grimes and Paul George. I mean, I don't mind the Paul George angle, Quentin Grimes, but yeah, he's the other guy I get a lot to. At shooting guard, point guard, totally agree with you on Jalen Brunson. Small forward, it's Paul George, Quentin Grimes, Pat Connaughton. Power forward for me is Giannis right now. And then center, Mark Williams.
And now we could hit Michael McKinney's 5 FanDuel cash plays, which is pretty easy to start off. Jalen Brunson's got to be there. Quentin Grimes has to be there.
LaMelo.
And then LaMelo Ball and his stupid $8K price tag absolutely has to be there.
Yeah, so I would say Brunson, Grimes, LaMelo Ball, Paul George. That would be 4 of them for me. And then just because you're going to need to save salary, I would add Nick Batum into there now that we have Marcus Morris out.
There we go. Kevin Love remains probable. Garland, Mitchell, Okoro, Mobley, Allen for the Cavs. Nothing too crazy there. AD expected to start for today. That was the assumption that I was going with as well. We got a couple more super chats that have come in. Taylor Weidman with the big super chat. Engelman is never really on live before lock. Good stuff and good luck. You are right. I also am very happy about that. Not that I don't want to do shows with Eric or Greg, if I'm being perfectly honest. I just do not like doing the late show. My mornings are early, and I don't want to be here. I don't like starting the day and ending the day live.
Fair. And also, people like Josh does work his own hours that no other person would get to. Like Josh probably starts doing his morning show before Jordan even falls asleep at night with the time difference.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I'm up at, my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock. So we're talking 2 o'clock in the morning for Jordan. There's a decent chance he's up pretty regularly when I'm waking up. So there's also that.
Probably.
Bat Jones, any love for min-priced Kevin S tonight, 18 to 24 minutes? Am I missing a joke here? I don't even know who Kevin S is.
Kevin Sadler. I think he's about to play big minutes.
I knew it was some sort of dumb joke. Parker Cologne. Greg, where did you see that quote for Mark Williams will be the backup? Also, any lean on if Jamal Murray plays or not?
Yeah, let me go pull that. I tend to think that Jamal Murray is going to play. But yeah, let me find the tweet that I saw earlier and I'll post it in chat.
And my assumption, I've been going with the assumption that Jamal Murray is playing. They really only sitting him in during parts of back-to-backs. This is not a back-to-back, so I'm just treating it like he's going to be permanently questionable all year coming back from his knee injury.
Yeah.
But we shall see. What I do know is that everyone should hit the like button immediately because there are 3,500 people in here and 692 likes. We are live to get 1,000 likes on this show. I see no reason that we can't do it. If you're here and you haven't done it, because that's like 2,800 of you, hit that thumbs up. We should be over 800 by now. I think we're giving you guys the goods too. So help us out, folks. It would be nice of you guys to do that because we have to talk about Prize Picks right now. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. I've been dropping a lot of Prize Picks stuff out onto my Twitter at Josh Engleman. You can see that Twitter handle below my name. You'll see Greg's below his G Ehrenberg DFS, correct?
Yes, that is how you DFS. That stands for Daily Fantasy Sports.
Nailed it. If you want to sign up at Prize Picks, you can do that by clicking the link in the description. You can get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 in an instant match deposit bonus. You're picking player props. You're taking over-unders Put together 5 on one card. You can net up to 10x your entry fee. I kind of want to put one together while we're talking, but I don't know if we're going to have the time because they've got it's Taco Tuesday today. So there's a reduced prop for Nikola Jokic right now, over under 21.5 points. You got to snap take those when they're there. Kind of just makes it a lot easier for you to hit those 5. I took the Kawhi one earlier. There was a hockey one up a little bit earlier as well, but keep an eye out for my Twitter. Keep an eye out on our YouTube channels. I think there's going to be a Josh Engleman Prize Picks video coming up in the next couple of days, so be ready for that one. It's just, I really like the mechanism for the site. I really like the 5 pick. I don't like going to 6. I like the 5s. I think that's the best value of anything that you can get to. You mess around at Prize Picks, or I guess you're just you're just putting in real sports bets.
Yeah. So the by the way, Kevin Love available to play, Giannis available to play. I don't have. So one thing that's really weird, I don't have access to Prize Picks in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Just it's for whatever reason I could play on, DK Sportsbook, BetMGM, whatever, any sportsbook, but NHA can't play on, Prize Picks can't play on. So, or else I would, but I can't. Just location thing.
So you're just getting those props on your own. That happens.
Yep.
Hey, we've got a Prize Picks player prop tool at Stokastic.com. Just in case you guys were looking for a little bit of extra help, we rank all of these props with our percentage chance of going over or under. That information is just right there for you. I think it'll help you out a ton. And then you could also just tail my picks, which I think is going to be lucrative for you in the long run. Certainly better than when Eric did this video.
Oh, for sure. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. There's a reason.
I actually think Eric smashed that video, though, by the way.
Yeah.
Jokes aside.
Yeah, there's a by the way, Eric actually has by far the most watched video on our YouTube channel. Not even close. Not even close.
No, that's not true. Laffy has it. It's got to be 2.
Aggregate views because Eric does so many more videos than Laffy.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think Laffy has the most viewed video.
Oh, that could be, but aggregate views, it's Eric in a landslide.
Is it? It's not me.
Oh, yeah. No. And for the, if we can live before lock and stuff like that, but he's on live before lock every day as well.
Yeah, I feel like I would have just had too big of a head start.
Well, that's true as well.
Because I got 2 years on him basically, and for that first year and a half, it's every show that existed. Although I don't get enough credit for the production of those shows.
Eric's also though, but I mean, who knows? Because Eric's in his 50s and he's been doing YouTube shows for 30, 40 years or something like that at this point. So that's got to play a factor.
You would think. Man, I have so much Jalen Brunson right now and way more Pat Connaughton than I was hoping to get to. You ready to talk about forwards? I guess we should do that. By
the way, I have to circle back on something.
Go for it.
Because I found the Mark Williams quote I found was actually not after last game. So okay. I still think he's the backup, but I can't say with 100% confidence.
This dude's terrifying me. Look, I'm putting it out there right now. I have 11% Mark Williams.
It's so. I think if you had to say, so are you willing to play Nick Richards then?
I did this a couple of days ago. It didn't work out for me, and I ended up going with Mark Williams. I'm not. Well, okay. No, I'm not. Because here's why. Because you got to get 2 things right then. You got to be right that it's Nick Richards, and then he still also has to be good. I would rather just simply not have Mark Williams, or at the very least, have a bit more Plumlee than anything else. I don't think that rolling the dice on Nick Richards is worth it on a day like today.
I am not going to do it. I can make a case for it. He's not going to be in any of my lineups.
Yeah, I did it. The day after he started, I went back to Nick Richards again, and he did not play.
So the other thing too is because if Mark Williams ends up playing the backup center minutes, I think his odds of success relative to his price point on DraftKings are astronomically high. Yeah. Very, very high. To me, if you need Mark Williams to fail, not even you have to go crazy with Mark Richards, but if I was in your situation where you're playing 10% Mark Williams, whatever it is, I would just throw one Nick Richards lineup in there.
I'd be more likely to look at those 11% lineups that I have and make them all Nick Richards than just do one. If I'm going to do it and have a little bit, I'd rather just have no Mark Williams and then just roll the dice on having at least a decent sample of Nick Richards. But just for this show, I got to say it. I'm not advocating for this at all.
No, I mean, I'm not doing it, so I'm not advocating for it. But that's the path to Mark Williams failing. It would be Nick Richards plays the backup center minutes. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
All righty. Let's talk forwards now. Highest owned forwards, kind of a mess at the top. You get Julius Randle and Pat Connaughton, both at 28%. Then you got this pack of guys of Giannis, Grimes, Paul George, RJ Barrett in the 20s. Starts to taper off from there. I'm getting pretty big stands on a couple of single digit guys, which we could talk about in a bit. But how are you handling Randle and Giannis today? Because I think those are guys that we definitely haven't talked about yet.
So I strongly prefer Giannis to Randle. And the other thing, too, that's going to play the biggest factor here is just that we don't have a fully ramped up Chris Middleton yet. And that's something that has to help Giannis. And Giannis's minutes seem to be, back to normal levels. Last game was a blowout, so we only saw 30 minutes out of him. We go back to 2 games ago against the Pacers in a competitive game. We got 34 minutes out of Giannis. To me, that makes him just definitely the best top tier pay up option. If you guys have the space to go all the way up, you're going to Giannis today. So I'm way heavier on Giannis than I am to Randle.
I'm basically neutral on both for right now. I don't have much of a take either direction just because of how little value exists. I'm having trouble I'm not getting to Jokic. So I think it's easier to just say that. I am getting to Giannis as a pay up. I just find that price tag to be a little bit problematic given all of the garbage that's out there, especially in a case for Giannis where if he does have that day where you have to have him, where Giannis hangs like 75 or 80, the amount of different guys that can get you to where you need to be at that point really opens up, because any sort of bad slop at the bottom is now viable. And you don't even have to have great scores on these 3K guys to just make that be viable to get Giannis in a lineup. So I don't have a ton of that ultra awful slop, which is stopping me from getting to like a big stand of Giannis. Whereas with Randle at 10-1, you don't have to really dumpster dive as much.
And just because you brought up the Giannis versus Jokic, the biggest thing here is that Giannis has power forward eligibility and Jokic just has center eligibility. It's just so, because you could get I'm not going to say a ceiling game out of Jokic. A ceiling game is like 100 fantasy points. But if you get, a good but not, earth-shattering game from Jokic goes out and scores 70 fantasy points, you could get a bunch of other centers that do, like Mark Williams plays really well. You probably don't need Jokic. If Giannis has a 70 plus fantasy point game, you probably need him. Whereas the same isn't for Jokic. Yeah.
Which it really scares me for Jokic today, because obviously this is a guy that has no problem hanging a monster number. I mean, he's like plus 120 for a triple double today. That is terrifying to think about as a guy that I'm just not really getting to. We'll talk about Jokic, I guess, in a couple minutes. Who are your favorite forwards, guys that we haven't talked about yet? Are you an RJ Barrett guy for today? A Jimmy Butler guy for today? Where's your head? Probably not a Jimmy Butler guy if I'm you. No. Still, guy continues to duck me. He's not signed the contract. He refuses to fight me. We're ongoing on it. So I do have a low owned play that I like at forward, and that is Herbert Jones. Okay.
Herbert Jones, we've seen slightly bigger minutes as of late. He played 27 minutes last game. And I know that was with no Brandon Ingram, but even last game alongside Brandon Ingram, we got 31 minutes out of Herbert Jones. And just relative to the price point, there aren't a lot of guys priced around him that I really like. Larry Nance, I get some exposure to, but as far as the cheap forwards go, the one that I do like the most is Herbert Jones.
Herb Jones in 15% of my lineups right now. So I don't have an issue with it. Here are some of the garbage small forwards that I don't even want to say garbage. Here are some of the small forwards, power forwards that I'm getting to today that aren't pulling much ownership. You tell me your thoughts. $5,700 Michael Porter Jr. Big stand for right now. He is currently 8.5% owned at that price tag.
I'm right around the field on him.
Okay. Jericho Sims, 4,600. I've got 20%. He is 7% owned.
I can't play Jericho Sims. There's just no ceiling there. This is a guy who goes out and he plays 36 minutes. Oh, cool, you got your 20 fantasy points out of Jericho Sims because it's crazy to say somebody who's starting and has a minute ceiling is overpriced at $4,600. I kind of think he's overpriced at $4,600 just because of how shitty of a points per minute fantasy producer he is. And there's no usage. So his usage rates, and do you know what these are? Like
I do.
Roundabouts as of late?
I do.
Usage rates for Jericho Sims in recent games: 6.7, 2.3, 5.8, 8.0. That was his high water mark over the last week and a half. He just doesn't shoot the ball. By the way, he's also not missed a single shot in that stretch. The last time Jericho Sims missed a shot in an NBA game was January 18th, but he still just doesn't shoot. Unless something's an uncontested dunk, he's not shooting it.
He makes PJ Tucker look like a ball hog.
He does.
So anyway, playing some Jericho Sims, feeling really great about that. I have some Joe Ingles, as I mentioned before, in the guard line, Isaac Okoro as well. And then one guy that we don't have pulling any ownership that I am getting to that is probably just a little bit too expensive for this slate. I've got 16% Evan Mobley, who we have projected for 3% ownership. He's just good, and I'm willing to take that kind of shot on a day where, maybe he blocks a couple extra shots, something along those lines. But at 3%, I will never regret taking someone of his ilk.
That's fair. Relative to ownership, I could see that.
Who's your biggest forward fade for right now?
Biggest forward fade. Let's see who's super popular at forward right now. Yeah, it's hard to call one player on DraftKings like a crazy forward fade just because let me refresh the ownership to see if anything has changed. There's not a single player, but it's a small slate and nobody's that popular at the position.
Yeah.
The most popular guy we have is Randall at 29%. I prefer Giannis to Randall, but I don't think 29% is outlandish for Randall or anything like that. Other forwards, like Connaughton's one of my most rostered cheap guys. We talk about Quentin Grimes. I like him. I like Paul George. And then beyond that, everybody's sub 20%. I guess if I had to say one guy, it would be, where am I at on Barrett right now? I'm about half the field on Barrett, so that would be the guy.
Okay. Mine's Nick Batum, who's now at 16% ownership now with Marcus Morris out. Who knows what direction they end up going with Batum. We could play 36 minutes or 6 minutes today, and I wouldn't be surprised. Are there any other forwards that we haven't talked about yet that we need to talk about?
Are you expecting Batum to start, or is that kind of, no matter what, you're like, I don't know what the minutes are going to be like. I don't really want to get to Batum.
I am assuming he starts. I don't necessarily think that means he plays 28 to 30 minutes. I gave him 25, I believe. Let me double check that. I don't want to lie to the people here. I gave him 24. Power forward center, I think that's fine. In lieu of getting to Nick Batum, I'm just thinking to myself, how could I get more Jericho Sims,
Of course, because to me, I have one Jericho Sims lineup.
I wish I did.
And by the way, actually, same. I have 20 lineups today. One of them is Jericho Sims. One of them is Nick Batum. So I'm fairly similar on those two guys. As far as actually, my favorite forward of all of the Clippers guys is Covington.
I get it. I have no idea what to do with him. If Covington is getting 9% ownership and Nick Batum is getting 16, I think that those two guys should probably be a little bit closer than that, but he is not someone that I got to at all. I also would not be surprised to see him succeed. I don't have a great feel on him right now.
My preference is Covington just for the price point and the lesser ownership. And I know he hasn't played the last couple of games, but, he was playing north of 20 minutes the last time we saw him play. And Covington is somebody who has played a little bit better as the season's gone on. It's not saying that much, but over the last month, 12 games, he is scoring over a fantasy point per minute.
My only concern with Covington is that both of the backup centers are available. Diabate is here and Moses Brown is available with the team right now. So I think the most likely scenario is one of those guys are going to get out there. And then that's just sort of capping the amount of playing time that Covington could soak up. If Moses Brown was still with the G League team and it was just Diabate, then I could see Covington picking up a couple extra. I'm just a little dubious that there's enough front court minutes to go around.
Yeah, I'm dubious of the entire rotation.
Fair. Except for Paul George and Kawhi.
Yeah, other than I know, like, because I mean, and even them at times, they are apt to rest or whatever. At least for today, we know they're going to be in. But beyond those two, I think everything's a crapshoot for the Clippers because, and rightfully so, this is a team that should be playing the hot hand. Earlier in the year, Zubats was so good for this team that we could count on him for minutes. That's not even the case anymore.
No, it is not. We are at 6:45. I'm about to run my final crunch. You guys should hit that like button because we are up to 873 likes. I think we have got 1,000 in our sights. No reason that we can't get there, right?
No, none at all. None at all. The only reason we wouldn't is if it was something like was it yesterday where Eric said he was going to sing to the audience if we got 1,500 likes. And we can get a single like the rest of the show. I think the likes
Could you imagine how on it, like you would just see the likes trickling down, which I've never seen happen on a show before, but that would be my expectation. Just pure, unadulterated thumbs downs across the board.
Which we can't even see anymore. The thumbs down, it's gone. It's been removed as a feature from YouTube. They've hidden it.
It's a soft society. Let's hit a couple of these super chats that have come in. Our boy Jorge, would you stay below the field on Giannis and Jokic because there's not a lot of good value today? What's your stand on those two guys? I'm well under on Jokic. I'm basically neutral on Giannis, but it is mostly a value question for me.
For me, it's about position, and I'm underweight to the field on Jokic, overweight to the field on Giannis.
Okay. Let me paste that in here. Perfect. Quick refresh. Perfect. Next question. Trying to pivot off Pat Connaughton with KCP on DraftKings. Thoughts? Love that kind of pivot.
Yeah, so Pat Connaughton is really popular. I think the popularity is warranted on him. But as far as a pivot goes, like if you're really chalky elsewhere, I think you do worse than flipping to KCP.
Yeah, KCP is going to be out there playing like 32 minutes or something along those lines. Like that's the kind of guy that I'd be. Those two guys are not all that different today.
And by the way, one other thing to add to that, you and I are both under the assumption that Jamal Murray is going to play. Not a guarantee. He's still questionable. No. He could get rolled out, which would make KCP, look pretty good.
There we go. Final crunch is running for me. We can go back to the questions now. We've got Corey Shea, Middleton or Porter Jr., single entry DraftKings. This isn't close to me. It's Porter Jr.
I just don't know what the minute ceiling is for Chris Middleton right now. You look at the recent, eventually he's going to play extended minutes, but at least as of now, it's not there. He's played a handful of games since coming back, 15, and 18 minutes. It looks like he's playing sub 20 minutes.
Yeah. If Michael Porter Jr. were like getting heavy ownership and that was like a pivot you wanted to make, I might not love it, but we don't know when he's going to get that bump. And if you catch that on the right day, you could be happy. But MPJ is already 8.5% owned. Like if you're choosing between those two, take the guy that you expect to play 29 minutes and be functional for the day.
Yeah. So there's just not enough minutes for Middleton to reliably have a ceiling.
SMP hit us with the member question. How many minutes are you giving Rocco? Is he viable? I gave him 16. I think upwards of 24 is very, very possible. I just don't have a great feel with him just coming back.
Yeah. So for me, he is the cheap forward from the Clippers I'm getting the most exposure to, for the main reason being that he is the cheapest and the least owned. So that's where I landed. I don't know what the minutes are going to look like either. I like Covington. He's the one I'm going to be playing the most.
Shane Daly, Hawaiian Punch or High C? I'll be honest, I don't even know what the difference would be if I drank them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, neither. I'm not 6 years old.
Yeah. And then George or Vooch, last guy in. That's going to be George for me.
It's Paul George for me.
Not that they're not close. I've got it by a point, but it's Paul George.
And then I guess it's it's utility spot, so it's 1v1. Not this would matter all that much, but I do have a lot more exposure to Paul George. A lot of that's to do with positions, but I do have him projected better as well.
You want to talk through centers quickly before we end up already at the end of this? Well, the end of the we get the lock at 7:00. We got another half hour coming up where we're going to be able to shoot the shit for a bit, but we have not touched fully on the centers yet. I've stated my piece on Mark Williams for right now. It is a guy that I'm heavily fading for right now. I have a bunch of other garbage, like 4% owned Ivica Zubac at 5,500, or as I mentioned, Jericho Sims. Isaiah Hartenstein, I have in 18% of my lineups at 8% ownership. I'm very spread out here at center. I'm not taking the chalk in Mark Williams. I do have some Giannis and Randall. Go Brook Lopez. That's my summary of center for right now. What do you got?
Number one, Nick Lepre having an immediate opinion on chat on whether he preferred Hawaiian Punch or High C is hilarious to me because he is 12 years old. But for anybody who's interested, Nick Lepre does prefer Hawaiian Punch. And also, this will be really quick because we got one more super chat from Michael Pavlik who wants to know Paul George or Levine. That's pretty easily Paul George for me.
Yes, it is. Yeah, shocked that Nick is a sugar water drinker.
Yeah, I mean he is built like the Kool-Aid man. So it's not that surprising that he would be opinion. He's actually it's probably what his blood is.
You know what? It probably is. That's a good point. I would not be surprised if you drew that out there if it was just simply Hawaiian Punch, fruit punch flavor.
Congrats to Nick on getting engaged, by the way.
Yes. Congrats. Your life is over. My wife isn't here to hear those sorts of statements right now. She's out.
Yeah. The good thing is he's got the sugar water in his veins to keep him going. The centers for me, Giannis is center eligibility, but he's mostly in my lineups at power forward. Mark Williams, I am riding with him today. And then it's just a bunch of other guys who I'm mixing in. Like we talked about Robert Covington. He's in some of my lineups with center eligibility. And then Valanciunas, Brook Lopez, Larry Nance, Mason Plumlee, just like a bunch of guys that I'm taking some shots on. Outside of Mark Williams, there's nobody I'm particularly heavy on though.
I am 2xing and then some on Jared Allen at 6,400. Obviously, I mentioned that I have Mobley. I'm kind of happy to just have a stand on both of them. I feel pretty good about one of the two of those guys having a decent day today, which I think could pay some dividends. But Brook Lopez is actually the center that I'm most exposed to at 32% right now. No issues with it. I think a lot of these guys just look really similar, whether it's Lopez, Plumlee, Allen, Joval. Like these the 6K range of center has become a real difficult spot to really want to get to anybody specific. I mean, whatever's just showing up for me is just how it shows up. Like that's how my day works. But for right now, I am light on Mark Williams. I have 30 lineups to go, export my final crunch. We've got 8 minutes to go until lock. I assume you've got your lineups in.
Yep, I'm good to go. If you want to, we also got some Discord questions, so I could answer those if you want to take a second to upload your lineups as well. And I agree with you on Brook Lopez, by the way. I'm not all that much different on the field but it is a really good matchup against Charlotte, who has just been a disaster protecting the rim for a couple of years now. Last year, they thought they shored up the problem by getting Montrezl Harrell for some reason, which obviously did not go well for them. But yeah, they've been a disaster guarding centers for a little while now, and we've seen a lot of centers go off. So I think that does make a lot of sense. Lippy, thoughts on Joval on DK today? I think he's about a neutral play.
Same. I'm a little bit over that 8% mark, but I don't think that he's some sort of like exceptional option. He's just a function of me getting away from some heavy chalk at center.
DA24, if Kevin Love plays, which he is he a decent pivot to a chalky Mark Williams? Is Kevin Love somebody you're pivoting off of Mark Williams with?
No, he is not.
Is there somebody you would say is like a direct pivot for you off of Mark Williams, or is it just paying up a little bit more?
I guess depends on what you mean by a little bit more. I guess it's Jericho Sims for me. Isaiah Hartenstein, 3,600. I have 18%. Yeah,
it's not. Well, also, I'm just playing Mark Williams, so it's hard for me to I can't advocate for pivoting off of him personally because I'm just playing Mark Williams. If I had to play somebody, for me, the one that I'm getting the most exposure to in that price range is Covington. Like that's the guy who I'd say if you had to play somebody who isn't Mark Williams at that like 3,400 price range on DK, I would say go to Covington personally. Okay. Jumpo, best pay up option 10K and above for DK single entry. That is Giannis to me.
I agree. It's Giannis.
There aren't that many options. We've got overall for the slate, 10K options. We're talking about Giannis. We're talking about Jokic, LeBron, AD, Julius Randle. LeBron and AD are both going to be cutting into each other a little bit at this point. And then you got the issue with the positionality for Jokic. And then I just prefer Giannis as a spend up option to Randle. So Giannis it is for me. And then Lippy, thoughts on Kawhi Leonard on DK? And thanks. I haven't played Kawhi Leonard really at all as of late.
I'm
not really doing it today either.
No, I don't have him at all. That said, like, if you get to $9,800 Kawhi, like 13% of the field is doing that. I don't think you're wrong for doing it. He's just not the guy that I have. When it comes to these, I have a hard time paying the 11.6 for LeBron because he's priced as if AD is out. But when it comes to like Kawhi's price tag, like he's just appropriately priced. There's no reason that he can't go out, score like 50, 55 fantasy points and be a guy that works for your lineup. You know, I think like his boom rates and his optimal rates all look okay. They're just not as much, like he's not Giannis. And for me, I'm actually getting to a bit of Julius Randle. He's not Julius Randle. Like I've got Julius Randle projected for 6.5 more fantasy points than Kawhi. I'm just never going to get to Kawhi in that situation.
Who would have thought this a couple of years ago that you would string a sentence together as, Kawhi's not Julius Randle. But that's kind of where we're at now. But Kawhi's Kawhi played 39 minutes last game, but he scores almost the same amount of fantasy points every game. You're getting like 45 to 50 fantasy points for Kawhi. Has been consistent without all that much of a ceiling. Relative to price points, I prefer Paul George today.
We got a bunch of super chats right here. Corey Shea wanted to know last man in 4K and under.
So I'm going to assume that Mark
I
Williams
got my
off
answer.
the table.
Yeah, the answer is Mark Williams, but assuming that we can't say Mark Williams, my answer is Joe Ingles.
Same for me, Joe Ingles.
And then,
and by the way, that's with him at 19.3 fantasy points. Still the option there for me.
Chat wanted me to look at, chat wanted us to look that Moses Brown is with the G League. Evidently he is with the G League per the injury report. So there's that. Diabate's still around. Makes me like Covington a little bit more. Brown had been back up with the team. I didn't see that he got sent back down, but Diabate's still there, and they have been playing him. Last man in, DK single entry, George or Ball?
That's LaMelo Ball for me.
Okay. I assume that's LaMelo Ball for me as well, but let me take a quick look. Ball. Yeah, that's Ball. Not close really either. You're paying $600 more. Cloud, I think I hit that super chat, but yes, great minds do think alike. JR, favorite FanDuel $3,900 power forward?
Batum. Batum's 3,900.
There you go. That's easy enough. I got my lineups in. You want to hear my ridiculousness for right now?
I would like to hear it.
All right, I'm going to give you, I have a table of my top 10 guys that I'm most over our ownership projection on and my 10 guys I'm most under it on. Okay. Jalen Brunson is my highest exposed guy. RJ Barrett, Joe Ingles, Grayson Allen, Jared Allen, MPJ, Isaiah Hartenstein, Evan Mobley, Jericho Sims, Bones Highland. They are my 10 biggest stands for today. None of that is really fun for me other than Jalen Brunson.
The Bones Highland one could be tricky.
Yeah, I just need that dude. Like, as long as he's still on the Nuggets by the time we get to 10 o'clock, I like him at 4,300.
Or if Jamal Murray gets ruled out, the other day we had Jamal Murray gets ruled out and Bones Highland plays less minutes than normal with the entire team out. Try to make sense of that scenario. But like we said before, if Jamal Murray gets ruled out, a lot of stuff is going to change very quickly.
My biggest fades in order from most to least. There's no denying this one. I have 7.3% Mark Williams. That is going to dictate a large part of my night. I hope that he's as chalky as he is. I hope that it's even chalkier if life works out perfectly. I understand. Oh, I never put out my updated contenders for today. My bad, guys. I do hope that people looked at that and took it, but man, are people going to be pissed if they see that I played 7% of Mark Williams? But leverage matters in GPPs. It's not just about what the most optimal rate is. If I were playing cash, Mark Williams would be the first guy that I put in the lineup. Anyway, I don't have any shares of Ricky Rubio. I don't have any shares of Nick Batum. I don't have any shares of Reggie Jackson. I am oddly light on Paul George. That one scares me a lot. I'm very light on Jimmy Butler. I don't like that. I don't have any Kawhi Leonard. I somehow now don't have Herb Jones, which I'm not really happy about. I did like everything you had to say about him earlier today. I essentially don't have Nikola Jokic. I don't have Troy Brown, who's 11% owned. That one doesn't break my heart as much as the rest of these. And then no Bam. I basically don't have the Miami Heat outside of Tyler Hero.
Which I don't mind, especially because there's such limited value on this slate. So I have some exposure to Ricky Rubio. I have some exposure to Kyle Lowry. That's kind of it from that first game. I don't mind having the flexibility on the off chance that Jamal Murray gets rolled out. Like, I think that is probably more valuable than these Heat guys anyway.
I agree with you there. 6:59 and 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. We are locked, folks. It is about that time. Now we got the extra 30 minutes. I guess we were talking prize picks. We're talking whatever the hell the first game is that I don't remember already. Lots to talk about. What do you guys normally do for that final half hour?
Eric takes his clothes off. He gets suspended from social media and he gets made fun of usually for 30 minutes or so. But we've got potential, we're not going to get Jamal Murray news, but we can talk about prize picks. We could also look at BetPro and we could look at some of the props for, BetMGM. We could look at FanDuel, DraftKings props, see whatever stands out for the later games. And then we'll react to whatever ends up happening in the first game of the slate. And if anything happens in the first 4 minutes, as everybody knows, that's where the entire slate is made or broken. Whatever happens in the first 4 minutes of the game, everybody should be freaking out. No doubt about it. Ryan Nelson also had the super chat. He said, Cavs -4 at home. Miami offense, worst unit in game. Yeah, I mean, I am definitely cheering for the Cleveland Cavaliers as someone that has 33% of Jared Allen, 17% of Evan Mobley, and 18% of Isaac Okoro. I'm curious to see what Jamal Murray's ownership actually ends up being. Same. Just because you get to these spots, it is nearly impossible to project for these kind of scenarios, right? Because there's so much human element that goes into he's questionable to play in a game that is a 10 p.m. Eastern time start. It's very, very likely that he's going to be questionable and all the other games are going to lock. So how many people that are hand building one lineup are using a projections and optimizer spit out one lineup, got to Jamal Murray and just said, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I'm taking him out. Last game of the night. Like, I do think his ownership is probably going to come in lower than what it's projected just because of that human element. I hope you're right. I have 33% of Jamal Murray, which is slightly less than Enzo, who hit us with the super chat that said, I have 45% Jamal Murray. Please, God, save me. Look, if you have a little bit of salary left over, and if he's in a guard spot or utility spot, you do have Brandon Ingram at $100 above him. That'll at least soften the blow a little bit. I mean, he's not as good of a play, but at the same time, it is a relatively similar swap for you if it exists for a decent chunk of your lineups. After that, you're going to really have to move some stuff around. And the other thing too with Brandon Ingram, we actually did get a question about him in Discord right around lock. We weren't able to get to we got so many super chats too right around lock, but Kenny Wayne did ask us what our thoughts were on Brandon Ingram today. I didn't play Brandon Ingram. I do have a prop bet on him. I bet him over 1.5 threes at plus 155. There's been a lot of usage that's gone to him without Zion on the mix. I think the minute ceiling is capped a little bit to play him in DFS, but I'm going to pull up if that prop bet is still available. I think plus 155 is good odds on over 1.5 threes. I could let you know where I have him at least. I have Brandon Ingram at, let's see, made threes. Like, I don't think Pelicans. I have him at 1.5 on the dot. So that was what I was going to say. The 1.5 number I think is fine. It's just the fact that it was plus 155 on the over. It's still up on DraftKings, by the way, plus 155. That's okay. It's a lot of plus money for someone that I consider to be fairly close to a 50-50 prop. I've got the ownership on the $15 on DraftKings right now pulled up. Do you want to know the ownership for the first game? Yeah. By the way, we got a weird starting lineup for the Lakers. How weird? Pretty weird. Lakers will start Schroeder, Brown Jr., LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, Anthony Davis. That's what I was expecting. I didn't think they were going to stick with Rui. I mean, it was either going to be Rui or Lonnie Walker in this spot. It's just so little three-point shooting. Well, they don't seem to care about that. So no, I know they don't, but it's something they should care about. Is that changing anything for you? Because I don't really think it changes anything for me. No, like I'm not going to go play Rui or anything now. It's just to me something that stood out as a weird starting lineup. You ready for this? I have no Lakers shares. None across the board. Not a single player. I don't think I do either, actually. So let's see. Yeah, because I don't even know who I would play here. Right? Because
Rui's guys, 5K. Like he needs to play starter minutes to pay off 5K.
Every single player on the Lakers is priced as if Anthony Davis is still out. Anthony Davis is back to siphon minutes and usage from a lot of these guys. And then Anthony Davis himself isn't quite playing full minutes, and he's expensive as a center on DraftKings actually, I think he's probably going to play close to full minutes. But either way, his price has got, like, I don't really understand the price. Like, why does Anthony Davis have a full price tag? But why does every other player on the Lakers also have an elevated price tag as if Anthony Davis was going to be limited? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then it's the same thing over on FanDuel as well. You got Anthony Davis as 10-2, LeBron James 10-7. Westbrook has become a little bit cheaper on FanDuel, but I don't want to play him in this scenario. And then Hachimura is still, priced up on both sites as well.
The only guy that I think is reasonable is Troy Brown because he's just not priced at anything that matters. Like if he's going to start and not have a salary, I think that's viable. All right, here's what we're going to do. Ownership for the first game, $15 on DraftKings. The highest owned player in that game. Do you have a guess?
Let's see. So the first game between it's Ricky Rubio.
It is not Ricky Rubio. It is not even close to Ricky Rubio.
Oh, wow. All right.
Ricky Rubio is 5th.
Well, so Rubio ended up being contrarian then. To some extent.
I think that his current ownership is also too high, but that's neither here nor there. The highest owned player in the first game.
Wait. I want to guess. Guess still. I'm thinking about it. We're thinking. Is it
you mean
Tyler
you're clicking
Hero
to find
then?
it? Tyler Hero is 3rd at 11.4, which is well below the mark and now makes me close to 2x the field.
Butler then?
Jimmy Butler is 2nd, 14.2% owned. I don't really have him, so nope.
Well, if I guess every single player, I'm going to get it eventually.
You would think.
I don't know. I'm confused by this.
Your boy, Kyle Lowry, 14.4% owned.
That's almost exactly where we had him projected.
It's Lowry at 14, Butler at 14, Tyler Hero at 11, Caleb Martin at 9. I have 7. Ricky Rubio at 8, Donovan Mitchell at 8, Jared Allen at 8. I have 33% of him. If I could get a Jared Allen outlier day, boy, oh boy, would that feel pretty good. Isaac Okoro is 7. So I have more than 2x there. Evan Mobley ended up at 5. I feel pretty good about that. Bam Adebayo at 5. Darius Garland at 4. Chetty Osman at 2, who is probably not going to play today. So there's 2% of the lineups down right out of the gate. My assumption, at least. Max Strus got 2. Love got 2. LeVert got 2. And then we're just on to real randos and sickos.
Yeah. No, I am. All right. So I'm going to be pulling for Ricky Rubio then today. I like him as a value option. I think he has the upside to play 20 minutes today. And he is a better player than a lot of the punt options that we have at our disposal. So obviously there's still Darius Garland, there's still Donovan Mitchell in the picture, but if you get 20 minutes out of Ricky Rubio, you're definitely live for 20 plus fantasy points, which should be pretty good at his price point. So I'm happy he came in lower than what he was projected at.
Absolutely. Man, I wish I would have took advantage of that Jokic taco. I probably should right now. Should we do a prize picks?
Yeah, let's build
a pick. Okay, let's do it. Because we still got some time on Jokic. I've got 3 of them live right now. If you want to see what I have going on Prize Picks, you can check them out on my Twitter account. But right out of the gate, we get Jokic over 21.5 points. That's the taco for right now on Taco Tuesday. You just have to take that. And I don't want to say that it's a lock because 21 is still a pretty healthy amount. I have Nikola Jokic projected for 24-2. So you're getting a pretty nice bonus on that number. Jokic goes in. Are you going to pull up here's what we'll do. You pull up the Prize Picks tool if you've got it in front of you. Hit me with what we have as our favorite props. If I agree with it, I'll put it in. If I'm on the fence about it, we'll go to the next one.
All right. So by the way, NBA Bet Pro, which if you guys haven't checked it out yet, you could get your first 7 days 50% off. Use the link we have below. And this is going to encompass pretty much everything out there. We've got Prize Picks in here. We've got No House Advantage. We've got Caesars, BetMGM, PointsBet, FanDuel, DraftKings, and then a best bet section, which is just all of the sites and whatever is the best props relative to our projection. It's going to say that these are the ones that we've projected for the highest win rates, the highest expected value. And there's different ways you could sort them by the different books as well. So it's really easy to find them. But I'm going to pull up NBA Bet Pro. And once again, that link right below will get you first week 50% off.
You're getting Bet Pro videos from Adam every single day, which I know people are going to be interested in.
Yep, Adam has been doing those videos every day. And we got Adam now that he's got a sports betting in Maryland. It's funny how somebody go disinterested to interested in something as quickly as it just becoming available to them. Because I would say probably the day before sports betting was in Maryland, Adam could not have had less interest in it. And then all of a sudden the next day, it was the only thing that he was talking about. So
I mean, I don't blame him. Like, it's really hard to talk about something that you can't have when you don't have skin in the game. By the way, 988 likes. Can you guys hit the like button? Just get us up over 1,000 quick.
For Josh's ego.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things that's just going to bother me if it sits there.
Mark Williams, we have for over 5 rebounds.
Mark Williams over 5 rebounds. So that is where the line is sitting now. I have Mark Williams at a number. So is it just defensive rebounds? I'm way over that number. What do we have him projected for in rebounds?
6.7.
I'm higher than that.
All right.
Mark Williams over. Got it.
All right. So
now,
Mark, we found one right away.
That. I'm cheering against that.
I'm on the same page as you. I think that number's too low. I like the over there.
Agreed.
The next one is Jalen McDaniels for over 9 points.
I have him at 9.
A little more fair.
I have him at 9.9. That's not. I think we're going to find ones where I have a bigger discrepancy. I would take the over, but 0.9 of a point isn't really enough buffer for me.
Is the Heat Cavs game locked on there?
I would imagine it started at 7:00.
Well, but usually, so because it's something that you will now learn being newer to stuff like Prize Picks and whatnot. They actually start the games. They lock when the games lock.
Oh, okay. Apologies for being a complete smartass.
Yeah. So the game just tipped off though. The game tipped off at 7:11. So that is no longer. The reason I asked is because the next one we had was actually a Kyle Lowry prop, but I'm going to refresh this and it is now off our tool because the game has started.
Okay.
So that one is off. The next one we have is Russell Westbrook for under 15 points.
I have him at 14.8. That's going to be one that I'm just going to avoid.
Fair. The next one, which is one that I am not going to like, is LaMelo Ball for under 7.5 assists. I don't like that one.
I got him at 7.1. I'm with you. That's not one that I would want to get to.
The next one we have is Julius Randle under 12 rebounds. That one's also pretty thin to me.
Under how many?
12.
Julius Randle under 12 rebounds. I have him at 12.4.
Yeah, I would say Randle's rebounds have been fairly difficult to project just from a standpoint of his rebound rate has been so much higher over the last month than it's been basically at any other point. If you look at Randle now over the last month, he's averaging 13.7 rebounds. And part of it too is just because Tibbs rotations, right? He's playing nearly 40 minutes per game. But I would also avoid that Randle under rebounds. The next one's another Westbrook prop.
Okay.
Under 6 rebounds. Do you like that one better than the other Westbrook prop?
I have Westbrook at 6.2 boards, so no.
Okay. This is one of your guys is a contrarian play for DFS, so you might like this one.
Okay.
MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., over 5 rebounds.
I got him at 6.4. It's going in. Put it on the board.
Yes, you could put it on the board. And by the way, Michael Porter Jr. for 5.8. So that's the one that came up next.
So we got Jokic with the taco over 21.5 points. We've got Mark Williams over 5 rebounds. We've got MPJ over 5 rebounds. The ones that I've been looking at a lot lately are free throws made. I've already put one in for that one, but some of these lines just end up being pretty ridiculous. Doesn't take much for some of these guys to just like fall into a made free throw. And they hang like half free throw made lines. Like, it's not great, but Quentin Grimes is at a half made free throw. I got him at 1.3. Do we have... I don't think we project that in the Prize Picks tool, if I'm correct. But do we project
don't.
free throws in our stat line? I don't think we do. I'm gonna take this anyway. Quentin Grimes over 0.5 free throws made.
Let me look at Quentin Grimes some more. I need a haircut so bad. All right, Quentin Grimes. Free throws in recent games. Like I have never even thought about Quentin Grimes' free throw rate or anything.
Neither have I. Patrick Williams is at 1.2. I think I took that over already, but I could be wrong.
1 point. What is he at 1.2?
I have him at 1.2 free throws made. The line is
gotcha.
The line is 0.5. Did I take that Patrick Williams free throw one? I took Vooch at 0.5 free throws made. I might take that Patrick Williams one. I have him as I have his under 0.3 rebounds and assists right now, but some of these 0.5s are just like really weird to me. Jose Alvarado is at 0.5 free throws made. I got him at 1.3. KCP is at under a half free throw made. I got him at 1.3.
Grimes average is making 1.2 free throws per game, so that seems pretty low.
Okay. Then we've got 4 in here right now. I'd like to take one more of these free throw props. Would you rather? I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna let you make the choice. Would you rather take over 0.5 free throws made for Jose Alvarado or KCP? I have my first thought is KCP, just because I also get that benefit on the off chance that Murray happens to be out, that like KCP has the ball a little bit more, but I already have him projected over that number.
Yeah, let me look at the free throw rates for KCP for the year. I'm sure it's not monstrous or anything, but no, but I mean, also looking at
1.3.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to, I think it's very similar to Grimes. You can take the over on that. And I also agree with the logic of you've got a line that's fair-ish to a little bit under projected with the potential for it having upside if Jamal Murray's out.
Absolutely. So we are in. I got it here. Placing the entry now. We'll read it back off to everybody. Again, Prize Picks. You guys can sign up at Prize Picks using the link in the description. Get a month of Stokastic plus Platinum and up to $100 in a first match deposit bonus. That's exactly what I did. I put in $100. I got our $100 bonus. I don't really need a free month. I'm kind of grandfathered in at that point, but we're going Jokic for the taco over 21.5 points. Mark Williams over 5 boards. MPJ over 5 boards. Quentin Grimes and KCP both need to make 1 free throw.
We just got an unexpected starting lineup for the Clippers. And
Man Kennard, George, Leonard, Zubats. I don't think that matters all that much. Does that matter to you at all? I mean, if you were getting to a bunch of Nick Batum, that's certainly a little scarier. And it definitely is worth a little bit of a bump to Luke Kennard. I just don't think that Luke Kennard is live to just play like 30-something minutes today either.
At his price point on DraftKings, I'm going to play him now. He's $3,300.
I don't mind it. I don't really know what I would turn. Like, he's not worth rerunning anything for me. I don't have anybody else there that's like a natural Luke Kennard pivot. I already didn't have Batum. I don't have Reggie Jackson either. And I think that, like, if I don't have Reggie Jackson already, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to Luke Kennard to make him show up now. That's worth me swapping everything around. Like, Luke Kennard's a 0.72 fantasy point per minute guy. I don't know how many minutes you think he plays more than Reggie Jackson at this point, but even just getting those guys to neutral is probably just that 24-minute bump.
To me, it's, well, number one, I think all of the, other than Mark Williams, it's hard to project any like super cheap guy on DraftKings to be particularly decent. FanDuel, you don't have to play anybody who's, like $3,500 or $3,600. DraftKings, you kind of do, and most of the options are absolute shit. And just because of the Kennard, like, nobody's talked about Luke Kennard today. The Slate locked 19 minutes ago. He's going to be so much lower owned than these other cheap guys, and they're all very similar looking.
That is a very good point. I can't disagree with anything you're saying there. Let me hit these super chats. One from our boy, friend of the program, Anthony Davis. Big time super chat. Much love, fellas. So LBJ in the Garden chasing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You don't think he'll show out? I know that's a narrative, but any thoughts? Well, I don't think that he's going to get there tonight. So I don't think the chase matters as much. I think he needs like 100 and change today, which, I wouldn't put it past him, but his price is the problem. Like the issue with talking about LeBron James is not how we think LeBron James is going to perform. I've got him projected pretty well. I have no issue with LeBron. He just at 11.6, that is the wrong price tag for Anthony Davis being back.
Yeah, it's just a points per dollar thing. And the other thing also is that I'll just add with LeBron here. I'll throw a betting angle into this. I did place a bet earlier. I'm not sure if they left the market up because the game is about to start. But FanDuel and DraftKings both have props on when LeBron James is going to break the scoring record. DraftKings had him plus 175 to do it against the Bucks. FanDuel had a plus 115. So just based on the line shopping, I took the like, I didn't really sit there and figure like, all right, what would I project him for each game? Just kind of based on those odds. The DraftKings one looks so out of line that I took a shot at the one just based on the odd shopping value.
Yeah. I mean, barring the biggest disaster in the world, like it's obviously happening and he's in theory going to blow it out of the water by the time it's all said and done.
Yes.
FanDuel question, super chat. Giannis and Nance or Randall and Gordon? That seems like a perfect opportunity to pop that bad boy into our player compare tool.
Yeah, pull that up, Jordan. Giannis and Nance.
Do something for once, Jordan. Good God.
Jordan.
Just lazy.
One thing that is a little complicated about it is Gordon would obviously look different if Jamal Murray was to be ruled out.
Sure.
But for all intents and purposes, I think I know which way I'm going. I'll see if the player compare tool agrees with what I'm thinking.
Player compare tool says 57.3% to Julius Randle and Aaron Gordon.
I would have gone the other direction, but our data disagrees with me. And then once again, we've got the chance there that if Jamal Murray is ruled out, Aaron Gordon would become much better looking.
Did you look that up for FanDuel? Because Randall is 9,400 power forward center and Giannis is 12.2.
Oh, fair enough.
We have Randall with a double optimal percentage to Giannis. Those are very different guys than they are with the relationship on DraftKings from a salary perspective.
No, that makes sense.
We have Randall 36% owned and Giannis 12 on FanDuel as well. Like Larry Nance is twice as owned as Giannis.
That kind of makes me like Giannis quite a bit on FanDuel because I built out lineups for both FanDuel and DraftKings, but I only entered lineups on DK for tonight. But I mean, 12% on 12% on Giannis on FanDuel is pretty appealing.
Yeah. T McBee, he needs 117. I don't think it's going to look the same if he's holding up a 117 sign like Wilt. Even though that never happened.
I don't so you're on the, I mean, there is no footage of it. The scorekeeping also back then was pretty terrible. I know people make a big deal of this Jaren Jackson Jr. thing as of late, but the scorekeeping back then was way worse.
I think that he my guess is that Stevie Wonder was the scorekeeper.
I think
a fake blind guy gave him a fake 100 points.
Not even close to the most embellished record of Wilt Chamberlain's career. Not even close.
You don't think he smashed that many women?
No. It would have to be like 3 a day to be the numbers that he said.
I mean, depends. See, you just like. I mean, I could see scenarios where like every day you leave the game, you're just taking like a gaggle back with you.
But it would have to be I'd have to, because what did he proclaim? How many women did Wilt Chamberlain say?
I think it's 10,000.
Was that the number 10,000? Was he really? Oh, by the way, no. He said that it was 20,000.
Okay. So if you bang out 20,000 women.
And also, who's counting?
One a day for the year. That's 55 years. So, we're talking like, you want to say it's 2 a day, 2.5, 3, something like that. I mean, that's reasonable, right?
No.
2.5, 8. So 8, that'd be 8,000 days. That's 22 years. That seems about right.
When was AIDS invented?
I don't know, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
A boy can dream, Jordan. Can they hear you, or am I just responding to nothing? They couldn't hear that question? Okay, Jordan's question was, does he think that I have touched myself 20,000 times? I got a late start to it, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I've been really trying to make up for lost time.
I have to say, I'm short of both the 20,000 women and the 20,000 self touches. Those are some big numbers.
I mean, it kind of makes me sad that he got with 20,000 women and I can't get with myself 20,000 times.
I'd have to take days off work if I wanted to reach these goals.
Well, what you got to do is learn how to multitask. I get one out during live before lock.
Fair. I know that's what's gotten Eric suspended from here multiple times, but we've all got different goals in life. Sotex has a good point here. We didn't have as many distractions. No internet, social media, smartphones. You just didn't have a choice. You just were like, hey, you, come on in. That's fair. Yeah. I think we're really underestimating the amount of times that he left a game with like a school bus of properly aged people. But the only way that I could think about, a lot of people in one spot was a school bus, a regular bus. Oh, man. Ooh, T. McBee was the other thing too. Point, by the way, the other thing too. Technology does make it easier to find people, but that's more of a now thing than anything else. What do you think the standards are like for Wilt? I mean, if you're putting up 20, it's got to be an anything goes mentality. It's just whatever you set your eyes on. Here's a question for you. I don't know how else to say this, but I'm just going to say it. Do we have to think about the fact that maybe he didn't cut his entire pool in half? How many of them were men? Good point. Because that adds 50% more opportunities. He specifically said women. Oh, okay. Yeah. You have to think at that point, though, you get bored to a point where you're like the Eddie Murphy thing is like, let's see what else is out there. There's no way the answer is 20,000 to 0. Exactly. That's where I'm at. When you get to 20,000, you're soaking up all sorts of weird. Yeah, his 20,000. So his claim is 20,000 women. He didn't explicitly say what, like he didn't say men, animals, nothing else was included. But I'm sure that would be in the mix as well at certain points. Has to be. Look, 1% is still 200. Oh man. True. Also, like, kudos to him for making it out of there without any like major issues, I guess. That was why I asked, when was AIDS invented? It was pertinent. Right. I guess he predates it, right? Yeah, maybe he's the one who invented it. Yeah, that's true. His sheets were probably like a petri dish. Yeah, exactly. It all mixed together. It's like one of those alchemy equations. It's like, all right, you get, one of these, all right, a fat girl plus a cow, and then this, you mix them all together and look, boom, you got AIDS. That's where it came from. Oh, okay. S&P, there's a good question. By our logic, do we think that Tiger Woods has been on both teams? I say unequivocally, yes. Also, but Tiger is not, so Tiger had his scandal, but it wasn't like the tens of thousands of numbers. I mean, he was working on it, dude. The number was like 40 though. No, the number was 40 of like people that came out and were like, yeah, by the way, like he definitely did this with me. Not like, I think it was just a revolving door for him. I mean, he went, like, I don't know how real it was, but he went to like sex rehab, didn't he? But that's all bullshit. That was for public appearances. Well, I agree, but like, you don't do that for 30, You do when your public appearance, your livelihood. If there are, millions to billions of dollars at stake, you do whatever you can. Sure. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, look, he's out a couple $100 million, man. She's probably kicking it with Bezos's wife at this point. And Ryan makes a good point too, which is true. Who do we think Otto Porter's dad is? If there's any conspiracy theory I believe in, it's that Will Chamberlain is Otto Porter's dad. I don't think I've ever heard this. Look at them side by side. Just Google it. Otto Porter, Will Chamberlain. They look identical. I assume somebody's just already done this for me. Oh, yeah. This is out there. They could not look more similar.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, Ryan brings up a valid point there. I would actually assume that it's kind of like the Thomas Jefferson thing. If you trace back your heritage, I would assume that like 5% of current NBA players are related to Will Chamberlain in some way.
Wow. That'd be something.
Can you put that up on the screen, Jordan? Because I think this is a good thing to close with.
Well, do you think it's his kid or his grandson?
It could even be great-grandson. There's no way they aren't related in some way, though.
Looks like Dinwiddie might be in that camp as well, but he didn't get the height. Those guys look ultra similar. Ooh, 7:30. We're locked again for Lakers Knicks now. I know that we're at 7:30. I'm going to download the salary file quick just to see who's owned for Lakers Knicks, considering I think this is an interesting game, and then we'll get out of here.
Sounds good.
Because we are talking about a game where the Knicks were pulling a pretty sizable chunk of ownership. All right, here we go. CSV downloaded. How the fuck do I open this?
So Grimes, Brunson, Randall. Those are the three that I'm really predominantly interested in.
All righty. Are you ready for this one? Let me close out everything else that I have here.
Oh, boy. I just saw Brunson.
Oh, well, that's cheating. 44 for Jalen Brunson. I have 80. So, I wish he was a little less owned, but it's not like I expected something different. Number 2, Quentin Grimes at 26%. I am basically neutral. Julius Randle came in at 24. Exactly what I have. No surprises there. Quickly, 4th at 20. That's a bit higher than we were expecting, which is really creating a situation where RJ Barrett then 5th. The top 5 owned guys on this slate through the first 4 teams are all the Knicks. RJ Barrett comes in at 16. That's higher than Kyle Lowry. I have 58 on Barrett, so I know what I need to happen here.
Yeah, the Knicks are popular today.
Jericho Sims came in at a crisp 10, as did Isaiah Hartenstein. I have 16 and 19 of both of those guys. So I need all things Knicks for today. I just give me overtime here with, I don't know, like pedestrian games out of AD and LeBron, which doesn't sound feasible. LeBron got to 8. I don't have any.
Neither do I. I don't have AD either.
AD got to 6. Lonnie Walker is at 6. Rui is at 5.
Troy Brown might be popular after his outlier game the other day.
Troy Brown is 11% owned. We actually nailed that one on the dot. And that's it. Schroeder at 3%. Not all that interesting. Pat Bev is in a percentage point or so. But we're done here, man. That was easy. That was a quick hour and a half. Almost 1,100 likes. Went completely off the rails for the extra half hour, as I tend to do from time to time. We got a Prize Picks 5-man card in to take advantage of the Jokic taco. What else could we possibly do? I think we got to get out of here. Anything else you want to plug? Anything you want to get in before we leave?
No, that's it, guys. Just thanks for sticking around with us as per usual. If you didn't do it yet, I know Josh already said it, but like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
There it is, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Keep hitting that like button. Maybe we can run that number up to like 1,200. We're back again doing it all again tomorrow. Nothing ever changes. I think we got a decent sized slate for tomorrow as well. Good luck tonight, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. We're out of here. Peace.